Chapter 1058. Since we can do it, you can do it too. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes rose slightly as a trace of craftiness and ridicule flashed past her eyes. The students suddenly felt immense pressure. She could do it, class monitor could do it too. That was a matter of course. But if it were them, how could they possibly do it? Just at this moment, they heard a commotion from the magical beasts, as well as the magical beasts' roars. Not too far away, 10 over extremely ferocious-looking low- and middle-leveled magical beasts appeared. The students' expressions changed drastically as they had a thought in their minds. Indeed, they heard Yi-Ching Luo's voice, which was filled with laughter, melodious. This time, I'll let you off and not let Shiju chase after you. Change it to these low- and middle-leveled magical beasts. Shiju's speed was extremely fast. Under the condition that the bell did not ring, 60 over people moved forward at the same time. It was indeed as difficult as ascending to heaven. Yi-Ching Luo specially asked Mo Yuing and Shiju to go to the middle to invite 10 over low-leveled magical beasts for help. These magical beasts' speed was slightly faster than ordinary wild beasts, just suitable for their training. Hence, the passing cultivators who were training saw such a shocking scene. A large group of students dressed in the Heavenly Academy's uniform screamed in a heart-wrenching manner as they ran forward in a horrendous manner. And behind them, 10 over low- and middle-leveled magical beasts were chasing after them crazily. At this moment, a few masters dressed in the Academy's robes were followed by 4 to 5 high-profound Class 2 students. Walking right in front was a handsome man dressed in a blood-red robe, with an expressionless face. The masters were surrounding that red-robed man with a flattering smile on their faces, as though they were talking about something. Suddenly, the high-profound class students who were following behind exclaimed, "Vice President, look! Isn't that devil class's trash?" Everyone's vision turned over. It wasn't because of this student's exclamation, but the rumbling sound coming from the front was too eye-catching. Not too far away, 60 over students were running wildly. The tinkling of the bell was extremely crisp, making their eardrums hurt. And behind those 60 over students, 10 over low- and middle-leveled magical beasts were chasing after them. The headmaster's face darkened. "What's going on?" The high-profound Class 2 student pursed his lips and chuckled. "Devil class's trash is really worrisome. So many people were actually scared off by a few low-leveled magical beasts. What a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy." His tone was filled with contempt. Lu Shuiyu frowned as she looked at the devil class students who were being chased and screaming. A trace of astonishment flashed across his eyes. He could not sense any particularly strong profound qi from these devil class students. However, she was astonished by their speed. Of course, Lu Shuiyu didn't care about this speed. It's just a few low-level trash that can be easily killed, yet they were chased to this state. I really don't know where they get the confidence to participate in the interclass competition. Lu Shuilan lightly snorted. She held onto her sister's hand. "Sister, look at how useless they are and you're still worried, wanting to guard against the devil class. I say, you're just worrying for nothing." Lu Shuiyu did not reply. He had suffered so many losses in Yi-Ching Luo's hands. She really didn't believe that young lady would fight a battle that she had no confidence in. Yi-Ching Luo would be so confident in the interclass competition. It must be because she had a sure-win method. But when she saw the low-leveled magical beasts chasing the screaming devil class students. Chapter 1059. This group of students. A master's face darkened as he carefully glanced at the man in red beside him. Seeing that he was still emotionless, the master was perturbed. The group of students howled and screamed as they ran past them, kicking up a cloud of dust and broken leaves. Only then did these teachers react, and quickly helped the man in red to block the sand and leaves. Following that, a wave of middle and low-level magical beasts came chasing after them in an overbearing manner. "Students of the devil class, tomorrow is the competition. What are you all still doing here?" The master could not take it anymore and reprimanded. He immediately went forward and prepared to deal with those low and middle-level magical beasts. Although he looked down on this useless class and this group of useless students. But after all, The Devil class was a class of the Heavenly Academy. Wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Academy, they represented the Heavenly Academy when they were outside. No matter what, they could not let this group of useless people embarrass the Heavenly Academy. However, before this teacher could take a step forward, a hand was placed on his shoulder, stopping him from moving. The master stopped in his tracks and turned his head. He saw the shoulder, the blood-colored wide-sleeve robe, which made one's heart feel inexplicably scared. The master's heart tightened as he stood straight. "Master Zhu?" The man in red squinted his cold eyes. "Let the students settle their own matters. There's no need for you all to do it." That master was stunned and immediately looked down. Master Zhu is right. The few masters looked at each other, not understanding. This Zhu Wu Xan who looked cold and emotionless, as if he was not the least bit interested in anything. He actually took the initiative to stop them and help the Devil class? The masters were perturbed, secretly speculating about Zhu Wu Xian's actions, but they could not figure it out. But the high-profound Class 2 students at the side, when they saw Zhu Wu Xian stopping the masters and helping the Devil class, their eyes revealed a look of delight. Lu Xuelan whispered into Lu Xueyu's ear. "Sister, does Master Zhu hate the Devil class too?" Lu Xueyu glanced at her, warning her to shut up. Lu Xuelan pursed her lips. After last time, when she almost took over the position of vice president from Lu Xueyu's hands, and after Lu Xueyu snatched the position back, she didn't dare to have any crooked thoughts towards Lu Xueyu. Seeing Lu Xueyu's warning, she did not dare to speak again. She continued to discuss this matter with the other 3 female students behind her in a low voice. Lu Xueyu looked coldly at the Devil class who was being chased by the magical beasts. He glanced at Zhu Wu Xian from the corner of his eyes, only to see the expressionless red shirt man staring fixedly at the direction where the Devil class had disappeared. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were emotionless. However, Lu Xueyu still felt that something was wrong. Why would Zhu Wu Xian stop teacher from helping the Devil class deal with those magical beasts? Didn't he hate trouble the most and never bother with things that had nothing to do with him? Could it be that it was really as Lu Xuelan said? Zhu Wuxin hated the Devil class? The students of the headmaster had different feelings. Zhu Wuxin didn't pay any attention, and he didn't want to pay any attention. His gaze was fixed on the youths who were running in the distance. There was a faint ripple in his heart. These were her classmates. Was she using this kind of method to train these students? He could see that although these students were fleeing in a sorry state, their mouths were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. But in every student's eyes, there was a resolute and fearless glow. How could a student with this kind of glow be trash? It was her. Was she changing these students? This thought did not make Zhu Wu Xian feel happy at all. On the contrary, his brows slightly furrowed. Chapter 1060. After a long period of energy exhaustion, these students gradually lost their stamina. But the thought of their companions beside them, thinking of the bells on their legs, thinking of the magical beasts behind them, still, they mustered up their strong willpower and continued to charge forward. They tried their best to coordinate with their companions, not letting their bells make any sound. What they wanted was absolute tacit cooperation. What they wanted was to be fearless, persevering all the way to complete the target which Yiqing Luo had set. Because they were Devil class's students. This kind of training continued all the way till 7 o'clock, which was around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Devil class's students then stopped in front of Yiqing Luo with their heads full of sweat. They had completed Yiqing Luo's mission. Under the pursuit of the mid and low-leveled magical beasts, 60 over people ran together, but the bells didn't make any sound. Looking at these youngsters who were obviously about to collapse onto the ground, but still stood up stubbornly, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile. Her pink lips curled slightly. "You've done very well, I'm proud of you." Ecstatic expressions immediately appeared on the faces of those young people, as though a day's hard work was worth it. Some youngsters even cried tears of joy. Yiqing Luo's forehead was filled with black lines as her lips twitched as she looked at Long Yunzhan. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? Getting a word of praise and recognition from her was like getting the whole world? This tears of joy, wasn't it a little too exaggerated? Long Yunjian rarely curled his lips as his azure blue eyes were gentle. It's not exaggerated. Not knowing when it started, Yiqing Luo's existence was already the core of devil class. Her every word, every action, was able to stir up the emotions of all the students in the class. Her recognition, to the students, it was the recognition towards them. Yiqing Luo and the others were drenched in sweat as they prepared to leave the rear mountain. The sky was already dark, and the number of people in the rear mountain was getting lesser and lesser. They had just reached the middle of the mountain when they saw 5 to 6 people coming forward. The person who was walking right in front was Tao Tao. Qing Luo, I finally found you. Tao Zi's expression was flustered as she swiftly rushed forward. Qing Luo, it's bad, your brother. Your brother has been kidnapped. The joy on everyone's faces instantly dispersed. What did you say? What happened to Xiaoyu? Yiqing Luo gripped the Peach's wrist, her expression sunk. Peach was panting heavily, with a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. It was obvious that she had been looking for her for a long time. She sped up and said, I received a secret report from the 3,000 peach blossoms. Someone hired an assassin from the Hall of Assassins to kidnap Yi Fengyu. When I heard this news, I immediately went to Low Profound Class 2 to look for him. But after asking all the students, they said that after Fengyu returned to his dormitory, there was no trace of him. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened as her eyes turned severe. Who is it? I've already asked the members of Peach Blossom 3,000 to search for Fengyu's whereabouts. We should be able to get the news when we return to the dormitory. Peach replied immediately. Yiqing Luo nodded and called Shiju over as she flipped over and leapt onto Shiju's back. Immediately, he grabbed Peach with one hand and pulled her onto Shiju's back. I'm going back to the dormitory first, Yiqing Luo said. Shiju turned into a bolt of lightning, swiftly vanishing before everyone's eyes. Long Yunjian's eyes sunk slightly, and without saying a single word, he speedily chased after Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 1061. Xiao Jin had just finished speaking when he suddenly reacted. His relationship with Yan Xiao, it was no longer the same as before. She could do whatever she wanted with him. He loosened his grip stiffly. I am sorry. Yan Xiaoyi turned her face away, and there was no trace of emotion on her pretty face. The atmosphere was awkward. Xiao Jin took a few quick steps forward. You guys go back to the old mansion together. I'll go check on the class monitor first. With that, he tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and leaped into the trees, disappearing from sight. Shiju was extremely fast. In just a short moment, he had already arrived at the old dormitory. At this moment, the students were bustling with activity. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew past, and a huge leopard with pitch-black fur stopped at the entrance of the dormitory. This caused countless students to exclaim in surprise. Yiqing Luo's expression was cold as she flipped over and jumped down from the back of the beast. As soon as the peach landed on the ground, a student came forward and whispered something in her ear. Peach's face darkened. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly sank. What's the matter? 3,000 peach blossom spies can't find where Fengyu was kidnapped. Peach frowned and said in a low voice, I have people in the Hall of Assassins, but I still can't find out who the bidder is. I don't know where the killer who took the order has taken the hostage. It was the first time Peach had encountered such a situation. She could confidently say that she had eyes all over the country. As long as she wanted to know something, she could easily find it out. But this time, there was an accident. In Yiqing Luo's mind, for words suddenly flashed past black. Darkness. Force. Power. Could it be someone from the dark forces had kidnapped Yi Fengyu? At this critical juncture the day before the match, was he trying to use Yi Fengyu to make her lose tomorrow's match? This was Shangguan Liuli, someone who was involved with the underworld forces and wanted to win tomorrow's match. Only Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her eyes were covered with frost. She quickly walked towards Shangguan Liuli's room. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a commotion in front of him. The few masters were in a sorry state, and fell to the ground in unison. There were also two elders who were desperately trying to stop something. Yiqing Luo's thoughts were all on searching for Shangguan Liuli, questioning her brother's whereabouts. He was not in the mood to pay attention to this farce. However, a loud and furious voice could be heard. Mother ***. How am I supposed to calm down when my disciple is missing? It's not like the person you're missing is your disciple. It's easy for all of you to talk. Get lost for this, daddy. This voice made Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. Sure enough, he saw a crazy old man dragging a terrified and crying female student toward the gate of the old dormitory. Mentor Guiyu. Yiqing Luo stepped forward. This person was none other than Old Man Guiyu. As the teacher of the devil class, Old Man Guiyu would naturally tag along if the devil class were to participate in the interclass competition. The moment he saw Yiqing Luo, Old Man Guiyu's furious expression eased up a little. He threw the female student in his hand towards Yiqing Luo. Catch! Ask this daddy clearly if this daddy's disciple's disappearance was caused by her. She dares to touch my disciple. Your father will definitely pull out her tendons. I didn't. I don't know anything. It's not me. Shangguan Liuli was so scared that her face was filled with tears. She shook her head in horror and struggled to break free from Yiqing Luo's restraint. Chapter 1062. I don't know. Shangguan Liuli's face flushed red. The pain of deoxygenation made her fingers struggle to pry Yiqing Luo's hand away. But how could her strength go against the raging Yiqing Luo? Her struggle instead made Yiqing Luo's fingers tighten even more. I ask you one more time, where is Xiaoyu? Yiqing Luo said word by word. Her voice was deep and cold, as though it was squeezed out from between her teeth. I really don't know. I have been in the mansion. Shangguan Liuli's voice was getting weaker and weaker. Her entire face had turned red. The elder by the side suppressed his anger. Student Yi, put student Shangguan down. How could she be so rude in front of them? Did Yiqing Luo put them in her eyes? The anger from being humiliated by Old Man Guiyu earlier was vented on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't hear them. Her eyes only saw Shangguan Liuli. You don't know? Then bring your ignorance to talk to the king of hell. After saying that, her 5 fingers suddenly increased the strength. Shangguan Liuli felt a sharp pain in her throat. The suffocating feeling made her roll her eyes. Student Yiqing Luo. The elder was furious. Old Man Guiyu had embarrassed them in public. And this Shuesheng didn't even obey the discipline. Not only the people from the Heavenly Academy were around, there were other forces and representatives from other academies. If he was treated so rudely by a student, he would definitely be ridiculed by the other academies. The two elders looked at each other. Their figures swayed, one on the left and one on the right, grabbing towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed. A cold glint flowed in her eyes. However, with a slight glance, the two elders stopped their movements. My disciple hasn't been found, and you dare to touch my disciple's sister. Old Man Guiyu didn't give them any face, directly raised both his palms and sent the two elders flying. He strode to Yiqing Luo, pointed at Shangguan Liuli and shouted, I tell you, hand over my disciple. Even if you want to die, I will not grant you your wish. I will pull out your tendons, peel off your skin, and remove your bones. Shangguan Liuli was in a daze from the choking, but she understood Old Man Guiyu's words. She widened her eyes and shook her head weakly. I really don't know, I didn't. Even if I had the ability to kidnap Yi Fengyu, I wouldn't have been able to do so under the watchful eyes of so many teachers and elders. The elder who was sent flying by the side clutched his chest and stood up. After being beaten up by Old Man Guiyu, their attitude had obviously eased up. That's right, the dormitory is heavily guarded. How could student Yi Fengyu's disappearance be related to student Shangguan? Another elder nodded in agreement. Student Yi Fengyu is probably just playing around outside the market. He'll be back later. Old Man Guiyu was still in a fit of anger, listening to their nonchalant conversation. He didn't feel comforted at all. On the contrary, he was burning with rage. He raised his hands and slapped each of them. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. I'm not blaming you. So many of you can't even protect my disciple. Is the Heavenly Academy feeding you bunch of trash for sh*t? Old man Gui Yu had always done whatever he wanted. He never thought about who his actions would offend, or make a joke out of himself. His protective heart only wanted to protect the people he wanted to protect. The rest didn't matter. Yiqing Luo was the same. Yi Fengyu was missing. Chapter 1063. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her pink lips curled into an eerie arc. Her slender fingers slowly moved from Shangguan Liuli's neck to her lower jaw. She tightened her grip and increased her strength. Shangguan Liuli's head was filled with cold sweat, as she could clearly hear the sound of her lower jaw bones breaking. I only asked you where Xiaoyu is. I never said that he was kidnapped. You. How did you know that Xiaoyu was kidnapped? As though it came from the azure from hell, eerie and crisp. It entered her ears and entered her heart. It made Shangguan Liuli's heart thump nonstop. She was trembling in pain as she endured the pain in her mouth and tried her best to explain. I guessed. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin, who were following closely behind, immediately walked up when they saw this scene. Peach explained what had happened in a low voice. Long Yunjian frowned slightly as his icy cold gaze fell onto Shangguan Liuli. If Yi Fengyu's disappearance had nothing to do with Shangguan Liuli, he didn't believe it. Xiao Jin didn't believe it either. Only, apparently, Shangguan Liuli had made up her mind not to reveal a single word. Perhaps she was sure that Yiqing Luo wouldn't dare to kill her. Hence she was so unbridled. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned colder as she recalled that Yi Fengyu was kidnapped by the dark forces. Her heart was in a mess, in the hands of the dark forces. Her brother. Just at this moment, a few mercenaries dressed in mercenary group uniforms walked in from outside the mansion. Peach saw them and immediately went up to them. Any news of Fengyu? Those mercenaries shook their heads as their expressions were extremely ugly, as they leaned towards Peach's ear and whispered a few words. Yiqing Luo's sharp ears heard the words devil class. Her expression congealed. What did you say? Peach's expression was steely green as she couldn't believe what she had heard. But now, there was no time to be shocked or flustered. She hurriedly repeated what that mercenary had said. Devil class was attacked at the rear mountain. The students were all seriously injured. When she said that, it shocked the surrounding crowd as all of their expressions changed. Those two elders and the few masters were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Students were seriously injured. If this matter were to spread out, how much damage would it cause to the academy's reputation? That group of students from Devil class were really worrisome. Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were locked onto Shangguan Liuli's, slowly loosened. She looked at Peach expressionlessly, her eyes as calm as still water. He clearly didn't have any emotions. However, it made one feel as if they were 10,000 miles of icebergs, and the frost had turned into ice. It made one feel inexplicably fearful. Shangguan Liuli broke free from Yiqing Luo's restraints as her eyes overflowed with a sliver of black qi. The corners of her mouth twitched, revealing a sinister smile. This time, she wanted Yiqing Luo to not be able to make a comeback. Shiju. The clear voice was filled with killing intent. That huge leopard quickly ran over. Yiqing Luo flipped over and leapt onto Shiju's back, as her pair of hazy eyes looked towards Shangguan Liuli, who was hiding in the crowd, laughing sinisterly. Yiqing Luo didn't conceal her murderous intent. Her charming eyes were like a hurricane, as if it wanted to devour everything. She opened her mouth word by word, coming out from the slits of her teeth. Shangguan Liuli, you've successfully touched my reverse scale. I will make you regret coming to this world. Saying that, the leopard had already sped up, dashing into the horizon, towards the rear mountain. Right from the start, the Dark Force's motive was the Devil class's students. More accurately, it was Shangguan Liuli's motive. No matter if the Devil class's students were a threat to her or not, she would first cripple these students. Chapter 1064. Using the news of Yi Fengyu's disappearance to lure her away, taking the chance to strike Devil class's students at the rear mountain. Although the current Devil class was already very strong, But against the ruthless and merciless dark forces, or experienced killers, there was still a long way to go. If Devil Class fell into those people's hands, it would only lead to death. The leopard beast's speed was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it had already reached the rear mountain. A thick stench of blood filled the air. Shiju followed the stench of blood and sprinted over. It saw Devil Class's students lying on the ground halfway up the mountain. Under the cold moonlight, the ground at the rear mountain was cracked, and the trees had collapsed. It had long been leveled to the ground. The ground was filled with blood, and the dried leaves had coagulated. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were glaring red. Boss Qing Luo. Some students saw Yi Qing Luo's figure, and struggled to get up from the ground, weakly calling out her name. What's going on? Yi Qing Luo's voice was cold and quiet. But for no reason, it gave off a terrifying aura. This was the place she had rushed back to when she found out that Yi Fengyu had gone missing. In other words, after she found out that Yi Fengyu had been kidnapped, she immediately rushed back. The Dark Forces people then took action on Devil Class's students. In other words, the Dark Forces people most probably had their eyes on them right from the start. She actually didn't notice. Sorry, I didn't protect everyone well. A weak voice was heard from the side. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she flew towards the direction of the voice. Squatting down, Yi Qing Luo helped her up. That petite young lady, from head to toe, was not in a good state. She didn't even have the energy to stand. Her exquisite face was filled with scars. Xiaoyi. Yi Qing Luo's throat choked. Her palm trembled as she hugged the young lady in her arms tightly. Yin Xiaoyi must have suffered such a serious injury, because she was protecting everyone. Yi Qing Luo looked at the side, at Mo Yuing, who had long fainted as she was helped up by the other students. A burst of anger surged from the bottom of her heart. Sister. Kitty Li called out to Yi Qing Luo crisply. The face which was smeared with blood. When he saw Yi Qing Luo, his crystal-bright gem-like eyes revealed a luster. Yi Qing Luo carefully put Yin Xiaoyi down, and immediately walked towards Kitty Li. He noticed that Kitty Li's wounds weren't light either. Especially her hands, the joints had been severely fractured. It was obvious that the joints of his fingers had been broken by someone. The people from the Dark Forces had actually treated them like this. These children were only 15 or 16 years old. The underground forces were actually so ruthless. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin, who had rushed over, saw the youths lying on the mountainside. His eyes were filled with a storm. If they hadn't left with Yi Qing Luo, these students wouldn't have met with such a situation. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's pupils constricted as he looked at Yin Xiaoyi, who was covered in scars, and he swiftly rushed to her side and pulled her into his embrace. His pitch-black eyes were filled with worry and fear. The hand that was holding Yin Xiaoyi was trembling nonstop. Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi. The scene in the Ling King's tomb appeared in his mind again. Xiao Jin seemed to see the scene of Yin Xiaoyi's life hanging in the balance. His heart felt a dull pain. His arms subconsciously tightened around her delicate body. Yin Xiaoyi's blood-stained eyelashes fanned slightly. She shut her eyes as she quietly leaned into Xiao Jin's embrace. Chapter 1065. Yi Qing Luo stood there expressionlessly. Her gaze swept across the 60 over youngsters on the ground. None of them were in good condition. Their green and white uniforms were dyed red by the fresh blood. Qing Luo. Long Yunjian stood by her side, calling out her name softly. Seeing Devil Class's students being treated in such a manner, he who had always been emotionless was filled with rage. But when he saw the expressionless Yi Qing Luo, he worriedly creased his brows. Qing Luo, calm down. This is their conspiracy. Yi Qing Luo's gaze didn't move. Her voice was as calm as water. I'm very calm. But that voice seeped out a thick murderous intent. Yes, she was calmer than anyone else. She wouldn't be rash to go around looking for the dark forces, to seek revenge for the students. She was the main force in the students' hearts. If her heart was in a mess, the students' hearts would also be in a mess. The dark forces only wanted to stop Devil Class from taking part in the interclass competition. So that Shangguan Liuli could win? No. The dark forces were definitely not that kind-hearted. Just for a Shangguan Liuli, they would go to war, not hesitating to expose their own identities? Probably. The Dark Force's motive was because of her and Shangguan Liuli's blood oath to destroy her profound jade heart. The Dark Forces wanted to snatch her profound jade heart from her once again. Presumably, her profound jade heart would be of great use to the King of Darkness. Previously, when Guardian Eagle and the director conversed on the second floor of the library pavilion, they had mentioned about her. The Dark Forces wanted her. This is Devil Class's students. What's going on? 10 overmasters behind him raised their torches and rushed to the rear mountain. On seeing the students' serious injuries, they were stunned on the spot. Following them, there were quite a number of students who were watching the commotion. In just a moment, the matter of Devil Class being attacked at the rear mountain had spread throughout the entire Westlake Square. This matter naturally alarmed the 4 masters from the main courtyard. It attracted a huge amount of attention. After returning to the dormitory, the Heavenly Academy's director immediately arranged for doctors to bandage the students' wounds. This time Devil Class was attacked. It's our Heavenly Academy's fault for not protecting the students properly. The Heavenly Academy will definitely give you an explanation. The director's face was dignified. The Devil Class students being attacked is just an opportunity. The other party's target is definitely the Heavenly Academy. I hope that all of the students will pay attention to their own safety. Do not leave the academy carelessly and act alone to avoid being ambushed. In other words, he was trying to push the responsibility of the attack on the Devil Class onto the Devil Class. After the Devil Class reached the dormitory, they grouped up and headed to the back mountain. Furthermore, he had made a fool of himself in the back mountain, being chased by a low-level magical beast. All the students knew about this. He immediately felt that the dean's words made sense. If he wasn't a student of the Devil Class, he wouldn't have insisted on running to the back of the mountain, and even caused such a huge ruckus there. How could he be targeted by the Heavenly Academy? Not only caused other academies and representatives of other forces to point fingers at the Heavenly Academy, even they, the students, were being discussed incessantly by others. No one pitied the Devil Class. Everyone was blaming the Devil Class. This was the effect that the dean wanted. Of course, it was impossible to shirk responsibility completely. Chapter 1066. The doctors behind her carried their medicine boxes and walked forward. Just as they were about to get close to the Devil Class students to check on their injuries, all of a sudden, a whirlwind separated the doctors from each other. Yiqing Luo looked at the director expressionlessly as she spoke in a cold voice. "Thank you, director, for your concern." The director's expression congealed. "Student Yi, now is not the time to throw a tantrum. These children's injuries are serious. Don't delay their treatment." "No need." She calmly spat out her words, not giving any face to the director. The director's face sunk. Yiqing Luo was usually arrogant in the academy, and he had turned a blind eye to it. But in front of so many people, she even gave him the director's face. Wouldn't it be a joke to the outsiders? His arrogance flared up as he shouted sternly. "This principal knows that the students of Devil Class were attacked, and you're feeling upset, but the injuries on these students can't wait any longer. If you continue to obstruct me, don't blame me for locking you up in the dungeon for the students' health." Yiqing Luo raised her eyes. Her long and narrow eyes were devoid of emotions. She stared straight at the director. Her beautiful face was calm and tranquil like still water, but it made one's heart turn cold. Even the director, who had been through all kinds of storms, was stunned by this pair of eyes. He opened his mouth, but his voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards, forming an extremely cold arc. Just as she was about to open her mouth, an elegant voice interrupted her. "Since student Yi isn't willing to let these doctors bandage the children's injuries, then let me treat these children's injuries." A handsome man in a white robe walked over slowly. The fluttering robe made him look like a celestial being, as though he was a deity. The entire crowd was silent for a moment before the director reacted. Supreme Mo, the other teachers, elders and students immediately bowed respectfully and greeted. Supreme Mo Xian waved his hand and walked directly to Yiqing Luo's side. Student Yi, what do you think? On seeing Mo Xian's appearance, Yiqing Luo's tensed heart finally relaxed a little. Her cold eyes also softened. She lowered her eyes and didn't respond. She took it as a tacit agreement to Mo Xian's words. Yi Fengyu's disappearance, the devil class students being attacked. These matters were like a 1,000-catty boulder, pressing down on her heart. She wanted to pounce into Mo Xian's arms, wanting to draw the energy from him to hold on. But under the watchful eyes of so many people, she couldn't do such a thing. Yiqing Luo hadn't realized it herself. Unknowingly, she had become more and more reliant on Mo Xian. Mo Xian gazed at Yiqing Luo's curly eyelashes, casting a long and narrow shadow under his eyelids, covering those eyes that could charm all living things. Mo Xian sighed softly. He understood Yiqing Luo's feelings towards these students. He understood Yiqing Luo's current feelings. At the same time, he was glad that his girl did not lose her mind because of her anger and seek revenge from the dark forces everywhere. Her state of mind was so strong that even he was ashamed of his inferiority. He resisted the urge to pull Yiqing Luo into his arms, as his solemn peach blossom eyes looked towards the director. Since Supreme Mo is going to treat these students personally, I naturally have no objections. The director saw Supreme Mo standing out to speak, and he immediately echoed in a low voice. I need an independent courtyard, no one is to disturb me. Mo Xian ordered calmly. The director accepted the order, and took a look at Yun Xiang. Chapter 1067. In the independent courtyard, Yiqing Luo arranged all the students into 3 rows in the courtyard. She specially asked Bei Ming Lulu to refine the internal injury pills, and fed them to each of them. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin then helped these students to apply the medicine and bandage their wounds. Yan Xiaoyi, Kitty Li and Mo Yuing were the most seriously injured. The 3 of their injuries were personally treated by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was applying the ointment on Yan Xiaoyi's scars when her wrist was suddenly pulled by her. Qing Luo. Yiqing Luo slowly moved her hand away as she said softly, "Don't move." "I'm sorry." Yan Xiaoyi's voice was very weak. They ran away and they brought the corpses of the other dark forces away. The appearance of the dark forces was too sudden. They had yet to react in time when they were attacked by the dark forces, as they abandoned their helmets and armor. With the cooperation of the few of them, they killed a few dark forces men. But in the end they had no way to protect those students, as they were beaten up by the dark forces guardians, till they didn't even have the energy to stand up. If it wasn't for the fact that Peach Blossom 3000's eyes discovered the scene at the rear mountain, and swiftly reported it to Peach Blossom 3000, there was a possibility that they would die in the hands of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo caressed the stray hair on her forehead as she comforted her gently. "You've done very well. No matter, take good care of your injuries, and leave the rest to me." Yan Xiaoyi took a deep breath, but it caused her wound to be in extreme pain. She was in so much pain that her eyebrows creased. Yiqing Luo was about to inject profound qi into her to ease the pain. Her shoulder was covered by a large palm as a man's deep voice rang beside her ear. "You still need to take care of the others, let me do it." Yiqing Luo turned back, and met with a face which wasn't considered as handsome, but that pair of deep pupils made one feel as though they had fallen into an abyss. It was Xiao Jin. She nodded and passed Yin Xiaoyi to him. She had just stood up when she heard a student holding his injured arm as he asked in a low voice, "Boss Qing Luo, for tomorrow's competition we..." This question attracted the other students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo. Such a huge matter has happened. The interclass competition should be delayed, right? After all, we are the class that will be taking part in the competition. Xiao Jin frowned. "I won't." Yiqing Luo's eyes seemed to be swirling with a whirlpool which made one fearful. The Academy's interclass competition has already been announced, and it will officially start tomorrow. Various forces from all over the world have come, and representatives from various academies. It's impossible that because of us a trash class, the competition will be delayed. The student's body stiffened. Then tomorrow. If there was no delay, how could they participate in the competition in this state? The reputation of the devil class was not important. It didn't matter that they were still labeled as trash. Most importantly, the blood oath that Yiqing Luo and Shengguan Liuli had made. If she was unable to win, wouldn't Yiqing Luo be? They didn't dare to think further. A student stumbled down from the makeshift wooden mat and stubbornly tried to stand up. However, the wounds on his body made it extremely strenuous for him. The young man's face was covered in cold sweat as he endured the intense pain. But he stubbornly stuck out his chest. Boss Qing Luo, I can still fight. I can participate in tomorrow's match. The other students also propped themselves up, wanting to climb up from the wooden mat. Some simply couldn't stand properly and fell down again. However, those stubborn young faces were filled with determination and unwillingness to admit defeat. Boss, I can fight too. Right, I can fight too. Chapter 1068. Looking at these youngsters, their stubborn and strong looks, Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to have been pierced by a needle fiercely. The luster in her eyes dimmed slightly, flowing with a chilly intent. She clenched her fists tightly, trying hard to control her own emotions. She must not be impulsive. At least now, in front of the students, she absolutely must not be impulsive. If you still don't cooperate with the treatment, let's see how you're going to enter the battlefield tomorrow. A mellow and hoarse voice rang gently, suppressing all the students' agitation. A warm palm was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. The familiar sandalwood scent seeped into her nose. It made Yiqing Luo's agitated heart gradually calm down. Her tensed-up body slowly softened, leaning towards the man behind her. She actually wasn't as strong as she looked on the surface. She had been calmly arranging everything, because she knew very well. She must not be flustered and must not fall. Otherwise, the youngster's willpower would also change along with her. Master Mo, your meaning is? Tomorrow. The students heard the meaning in Mo Xian's words, as their eyes revealed a joyous expression. Mo Xian nodded lightly. I have a risky idea, which can allow you to be like ordinary people for the next half a month. To stand on the competition arena, to take part in the competition. 60 over pairs of eyes all looked towards Mo Xian. In their eyes, it was filled with hope. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt a sense of nervousness. Her slender brows creased tightly as she grabbed Mo Xian's collar. You can't be. That's not considered as the competition's banned drug. Mo Xian caressed Yiqing Luo's silky hair as he pulled her into his embrace. As he spoke in a warm voice. In a while, someone will send the medicine back. Those medicinal pills can speedily heal all the injuries on the body, but the medicinal effect can only last for half a month. Half a month was enough. The interclass competition was split into 4 rounds: preliminary round, semifinals, finals and grand finals. The time limit was roughly around half a month or so. That medicine's side effect. Xiao Jin lowered his eyes as he looked at Yin Xiaoyi in his embrace, as he asked in a low voice. Mo Xian's gaze was calm, as his expression remained gentle. Half a month later, you will be suffering from the injuries now, 100 times, 1,000 times of pain. Everything had a price. After taking the elixir, the wounds on their bodies, as well as the ailments in their bodies, would be healed in an instant. However, half a month later, they will suffer psychological and physical pain. No way. Yiqing Luo's expression changed when she heard that. This method is too risky. I cannot accept it. Such a price was something that these youths who had yet to completely mature were unable to bear. I agree. It's all right. It was just 1,000 times more painful. Even if it's 10,000 times, I can still endure it. I am willing to accept. Those youngsters who usually listened to Yiqing Luo's arrangements opened their mouths to stop Yiqing Luo's decision for the first time. They clenched their fists and looked at Mo Xian unwaveringly. Supreme Master Mo, we are willing to take the pill. We want to participate in the interclass competition. That kind of pain isn't just physical pain. Before Yiqing Luo could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by an icy cold voice. Qing Luo, we can take it. Chapter 1069. Qing Luo, please. Don't stop us. We've worked so hard for so long. To protect you. To protect everyone. To protect the devil class which belongs to us. If we really give up now, what's the meaning of our persistence? Even if I really can't hold on for half a month, I will absolutely not regret it. At least I've fought hard for you. The students' eyes were filled with determination as they looked at Yi Qing Luo. After a long time, Yi Qing Luo was defeated. If it was her, she would also choose to endure thousands of times more pain. In exchange for this, to fight for the person she cared about. She couldn't reject their hearts to fight for her, nor could she stop their persistence. I will accompany you. Yi Qing Luo slowly curled her pink lips. This was after they found out that Yi Fengyu had gone missing and devil class was attacked. It was the first smile with warmth. In less than 1 hour, someone from the imperial palace sent over 2 bottles of medicinal pills. Dmo Xian passed it to Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin, letting the students consume it. Looking at the students touching their wounds in surprise as they gradually recovered, her emotions were extremely complicated. This is their choice, you don't need to feel guilty. Dmo Xian had appeared beside her, with one arm around her shoulder. With me around, Xiao Yu and everyone. We'll be fine. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips, as she buried her face into his chest. Her hands tightly wrapped around his firm waist. Dmo Xuanhuan hugged her body tightly. As for little Yu's side, I will let the people from the imperial palace search everywhere. And also try to find the nest of the dark forces in Nirvana realm. You just need to focus on bringing everyone to watch the interclass competition. Amen. Yi Qing Luo responded to Dmo Xian's words. The dark forces actually dare to touch the people around me. They have already touched my bottom line. The dark forces schemed against her, hurt her. She wouldn't have such huge emotions, only waiting for the best opportunity to return the favor 100 times over. But to hurt the people around her, she absolutely couldn't tolerate it. The interclass competition was brought forward. It must be related to the King of Darkness. If they won first place, they would have the chance to find out the location where the King of Darkness was sealed. She twitched her lips, as her eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Didn't the King of Darkness want to break the seal? She wanted to let the King of Darkness taste despair. He wanted the King of Darkness to regret his actions today for the rest of his life. Lil Luo. Dmo Xian's palm covered her eyes. The man's deep and gentle voice rang beside her ear. I've said it before. Don't show such an expression when you're by my side. Those eyes were devoid of emotion. However, it was cold and ruthless to the point that it caused him to feel a chill in his heart. He didn't want to see any murderous intent or hatred in Yi Qing Luo's seductive eyes. Yi Qing Luo did not reply. Her long, curly eyelashes swept across his palm. Slowly, her tense body leaned into his embrace again. She closed her eyes and forcefully suppressed the anger and murderous intent in her heart. With Dmo Xian and the 3,000 peach blossoms, news of Yi Fengyu's whereabouts should be obtained soon. What she needed to do was to strive for victory in the interclass competition tomorrow. After staying silent for a moment, after Yi Qing Luo's emotions stabilized, she raised her eyes and looked at Dmo Xian. I want to go somewhere. I'll go with you. He knew where she was going. Chapter 1070. The night was cold, and the entire dormitory was dead silent. The stars in the sky flickered, as if shrouded in a layer of dark curtain, making one feel inexplicably depressed. 2 figures flitted across the sky, and finally stopped in a dormitory room. One of the petite figures came close. She looked into the room through the open window. She saw Shengguan Liuli alone, sitting on the wooden chair with a face full of fear, trembling all over. And in front of her, there was only a man in a black robe, with a hood covering his head. This dressing was exactly the Dark Forces man. Yi Qing Luo looked at the right arm of the black robe. On the black robe, there was a tiny dragon totem embroidered. baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, as if it wanted to overturn the clouds and overturn the sea. This was the symbol of a protector. Xian, the dark force's protector. Yiqing Luo mouthed silently. Dmo Xian's gloomy eyes were as deep as the sea. He nodded and hugged Yiqing Luo's slender waist. But in the blink of an eye, the two had quietly sneaked in through another window. The Shangguan family must have specially arranged for Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli's room was extremely spacious, divided into 2 floors, inner room and outer hall. Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo were at the corner of the outer hall. From this angle, they could clearly hear the conversation between Shangguan Liuli and the black-robed protector, as well as their actions. "You, where did you lock him?" Shangguan Liuli lowered her voice and asked uneasily. "You don't need to know." The black-robed protector replied impatiently. "If there is nothing important, please do not release the black bird, so as not to expose our identity. I have something important. That's why I'm looking for you." Shangguan Liuli's emotions were unstable. She grabbed the black-robed protector's hand. "I just almost died, do you know? That woman wanted to kill me." The black-robed protector shook off her hand. His tone was extremely impatient. "If she is a smart person, she won't kill you." Shangguan Liuli listened to his casual words, and then thought of herself. She almost died in Yiqing Luo's hands. Her heart suddenly felt indignant. She pounded the table and stood up. "What do you think I am? What do you mean by that woman is a smart person? What if Yiqing Luo really killed her in anger? What do you mean by cooperating with me? I think you're just using me on purpose." Shangguan Liuli was infuriated. "You're the one who asked me to use Yiqing Luo to lure Yifeng Yu out, and then let the killers from the killer hall kidnap Yifeng Yu. Now that something has happened and was discovered by Yiqing Luo, you want to push me out to be a scapegoat? Believe it or not, I'll go and tell the dean right now that Yifeng Yu was kidnapped by your dark forces by bribing the Hall of Assassins." She was so angry that she didn't know what to say. The fear of almost losing her life made her unable to control her rationality. "Pa!" A slap landed on Shangguan Liuli's face. Shangguan Liuli was sent flying and crashed into the wall. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of her mouth. The black-robed protector stood up and released his aura. He looked coldly at Shangguan Liuli and said, "If not for you, foolish woman, how could she know that Yifeng Yu's disappearance was related to you? An idiot who couldn't do anything right, but was good at spoiling things. I really don't know why his lord wants to keep this woman alive. Just based on this kind of big-breasted brainless woman. Did she dare to put herself in the position of a partner? She even dared to point fingers at him and act so arrogantly? If it wasn't for the fact that his lord wanted to keep her alive." Chapter 1071. Yiqing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Yifeng Yu's kidnapping was indeed related to Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli, heh. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a chilly intent. Shangguan Liuli, who was slapped by the black-robe protector, became more obedient. Suddenly, she felt a chill down her spine. It was as if a pair of venomous snake eyes were staring at her. It made her feel like the cold December wind, seeping into her heart from her pores. She half knelt on the ground. Her gaze subconsciously looked towards the outer hall. Yiqing Luo realized that she had overreacted and did not control her emotions well. Shangguan Liuli sensed something. That black-robe protector would definitely sense her presence. Xian. Yiqing Luo immediately restrained the chill in her eyes, grabbed Dmo Xian's arm, and was about to leave. But Dmo Xian was the first to encircle her delicate body. His warm large palm gently caressed her tight back. Yiqing Luo's waist tightened, only feeling the cold wind brushing against her face. In the blink of an eye, she and Dmo Xian were already standing on the eaves of the room. The towering eaves just happened to cover their figures. The black-robe protector and Shangguan Liuli rushed out of the room at the same time, scanning the surroundings. Lord Protector, could it be? Shangguan Liuli's heart was palpitating as she subconsciously touched her neck. Yiqing Luo had already confirmed that Yifeng Yu's kidnapping was related to her. When they were in the outer courtyard, Yiqing Luo did not kill her, because there were too many people. If now, It was not impossible for him to sneak into her room and kill her without anyone noticing. Thinking of this, Shangguan Luli's eyes were filled with fear. Her body leaned towards the black robe protector. The black robe protector squinted his eyes, sizing up the surroundings. Releasing his perception, he did not sense any strange person. After a while, he said in a deep voice, "You only need to remember, tomorrow's competition, kick the devil class out of the preliminary round. The rest of the things, you don't need to worry." Shangguan Luli's voice trembled. You want to leave? This life of yours is not that valuable." The black robe protector snorted disdainfully. "She will not give up her chance in the Heavenly Academy just to kill you." If Shangguan Liuli were to die in the dormitory now, everyone would think that it was Yi Qing Luo who killed him. By then, Yi Qing Luo would definitely be investigated by the headquarters, and might even face the danger of being expelled from the academy. Yi Qing Luo was an extremely intelligent young lady. It was impossible for her to kill Shangguan Liuli to vent her anger, and to gamble with her future. It was just as the Lord had said. Yi Qing Luo would definitely choose to take part in the interclass competition. He wanted to take revenge on Shangguan Liuli during the competition. This was especially so after he won the championship. He would be able to fulfill the blood oath and destroy everything that belonged to Shangguan Liuli. This was the best revenge for Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli trembled. You don't understand that woman. When that woman goes crazy, she doesn't care about other people's opinions. Lord Protector, can you not leave tonight? Tomorrow. The black robe protector's hand was mercilessly pushed away. The black robe protector glanced at her coldly. If there's nothing important, don't release the black bird to summon us again. If it affects the Lord's plan, not only Yi Qing Luo will kill you, before that this protector will kill you personally. Shangguan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale, not daring to say another word. Chapter 1072. On the roof, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. Let's go. Based on the current situation, there was obviously no need to continue watching. Shangguan Liuli didn't know where Yi Fengyu had been kidnapped to. Naturally, there was no way to follow Shangguan Liuli to locate his location. But there was an unexpected gain. The two of them left the roof silently and returned to the courtyard. They didn't realize that after they left, from another corner of the mansion, a tall figure slowly walked out. Under the moonlight, that blood-red robe seemed to be plated with a layer of fluorescence. Like a god descending to earth, handsome and elegant. That extraordinarily handsome, but expressionless face had a slight change in expression. Zhu Wu Xian retracted his gaze as his heart was unable to calm down. He didn't see wrongly. Earlier, Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes revealed a chilliness which seemed to come from hell, as though it was covered with frost, making one feel as though they were in an ice cellar. The powerful and majestic aura made even him fearful. Yi Qing Luo. Was she really the Yi Qing Luo that he knew? Independent courtyard. At the entrance of the courtyard stood two people who were dressed as Imperial Palace's disciples guarding there. Whereas in the courtyard, those students who had long recovered were still bandaging their wounds as they rested on the wooden mat. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin were also putting on an act, sending medicine to the students or bandaging their wounds. This was to prevent other elders, or master spies, from paying attention to their situation. Otherwise Devil Class's students would be seriously injured, and didn't even have the energy to stand up. Tomorrow they would be able to compete energetically, and without any injuries. This would definitely arouse those people's suspicions and attention. If they made use of Supreme Mo's prestige, plus the Imperial Palace's people sending over precious medicinal pills. After a night of recuperation, even if they were able to compete tomorrow, it wouldn't cause too much of a commotion. When Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian returned, they indeed saw a few sneaky figures not too far away. Among them, there was an extremely familiar figure. Yun Xiang was actually in the dark, checking on Devil Class's situation. Yi Qing Luo scoffed as she pretended not to see anything. The two of them entered the courtyard directly. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin put down the act, in their hands as they welcomed them. Yiqing Luo took a look at the hall and walked over first. The others followed behind him. Shangguan Liuli and the Dark Faction's law protector just met. Yiqing Luo went straight to the point, as she succinctly narrated what she saw in Shangguan Liuli's room earlier. Hearing that, Long Yunjian was silent for a moment, then he frowned and said, "Dark forces kidnapped Yi Fengyu and heavily injured the devil class. What exactly is their motive?" He just couldn't figure it out. If he only wanted to stop Yiqing Luo from participating in the competition, now he could easily kill Shangguan Liuli and shift the blame to Yiqing Luo. But the Dark Force's intention was to let Shangguan Liuli and Devil class be eliminated in the preliminary round? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. King of Darkness's motive should be to force me to take part in the competition. Then when the blood vow is fulfilled, he will openly snatch away my profound heart jade. Kill Shangguan Liuli and frame her? Wouldn't this implicate the General Hospital? Once the General Hospital stepped in and locked her up, it would be extremely difficult for the Dark Forces to do anything to her. The target of the Dark Forces was her profound heart jade. If the King of Darkness wanted to undo the seal, other than her profound heart jade, he still needed her. Then wouldn't you? Long Yunjian's eyes sunk slightly as his face revealed a worried expression. The Dark Force's target was Yiqing Luo's words. Tomorrow's competition would absolutely not be as simple as she imagined. The Dark Forces would definitely do something. Chapter 1073. Long Yunjian was stunned as his azure blue eyes retracted without much emotion. The atmosphere froze for a moment. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept across the both of them as she changed the topic. The Dark Force's target is me. Xiao Yu must be safe now. They could only wait for the Imperial Palace, or the 3,000 peach blossoms to search for his whereabouts. As for the Dark Forces using him to threaten her, tomorrow there should be news. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes as she spoke calmly. You should at least rest for a while tomorrow. There's still a tough battle to fight. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin exchanged glances as they nodded slowly and returned to the courtyard. Yiqing Luo looked at the man beside her as she gently placed her hand around his waist. Xian, unless it's the last resort, it's best not to reveal your identity. When Dmo Xian heard that, a glint of joy flashed past his peach blossom eyes. His other hand held her hand tightly as he brought it to his lips and kissed it as he laughed softly. All right. His Lil Luo had finally learnt to speak to him and learnt to rely on him. If it was in the past, his Lil Luo would have directly rejected him if it was not the last resort. Was he considered to have truly stepped into Lil Luo's heart? Dmo Xian suppressed the ecstasy in his heart as he tightened his embrace on the young lady as a warm kiss landed on her forehead. You should have a good rest too. No matter if it's finding Xiao Yu's whereabouts or tomorrow's competition, you need to worry about it. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes slightly as she found a comfortable spot in his embrace and leaned on it softly. If it was only her alone, her restless heart would probably not be able to calm down. Her entire mind would be filled with Yi Fengyu. She would think that the Dark Forces had harmed the Devil class's students. But at this moment, the man's elegant sandalwood scent lingered around her nose, making her feel at ease. It seemed like, with this man around, she didn't need to be afraid of anything. After a while, drowsiness struck and her eyelids felt heavy. She rubbed against Dmo Xian's chest as she fell into a deep sleep. Dmo Xian looked at the young lady in his arms as he carefully carried her up and walked towards the inner courtyard. Behind him, a black figure appeared soundlessly and followed respectfully. Lord Di Zun, we have searched the entire West Continent, but we have not found the whereabouts of 8th young Master Yi. Dmo Xian's footsteps were light and slow, his voice was low. Continue to search. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must find little Yu. He wasn't worried that Yiqing Luo would suddenly wake up and hear that Yi Fengyu had not been found. In order to let Yiqing Luo sleep peacefully, he specially hit her sleeping acupoint. His little Luo heir had given him too much pressure. He lovingly gazed at the sleeping face of the girl in his arms and indifferently continued. The target of the dark forces is her. Little Yu must still be within the boundaries of the Western continent. If the disciples of the Imperial Palace can't find her, it means that the people of the dark forces have set up a barrier to block the eyes of the Imperial Palace. Afeng was stunned. He heard Dmo Xian hesitating for a long time before he finally said word by word. Send a secret message to little Ling. Ask her to quickly head to the Western continent and search for a place with a strong barrier. I want to know about little Yu's news before noon tomorrow. Afeng immediately raised his eyes and for the first time, he refuted Dmo Xian's request. Lord Dmo Xian must not do that. If Miss Ling knew about Miss Ye's existence, I'm afraid. Chapter 1074. Afeng pursed his lips and took a few steps back respectfully before disappearing into the night. Dmo Xian Huan held the young lady in his arms tightly as he walked straight into the bedroom. He gently placed Yiqing Luo on the bed and pulled the blanket over to cover her up. He stood by the bed and gazed deeply at the person on the bed. His deep peach blossom eyes faintly floated with a strange glint. His Lil Luo had finally relied on him wholeheartedly. He didn't want to disappoint Lil Luo'er. No matter what happened, he would do his best to protect Lil Luo'er. The next day, the preliminary round of the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition had officially begun. Various forces who wanted to invest or collaborate with the Heavenly Academy were already waiting at the various areas of the arena. There were also representatives from other large-scale academies who were waiting at their own areas. The entire Westlake Square was extremely lively. However, this time, what the crowd was discussing wasn't which class would win or which student would be the most outstanding. What they were talking about was the incident of the attack on the Devil class last night. In front of various forces, representatives from various large academies, and the teachers sent by the main courtyard, a class of students were beaten up to a serious injury. Although this was a humiliation to the Heavenly Academy, a humiliation that could not be washed away. But to the other forces, it was also a disgrace to them. It could be said that the person who attacked the Devil class didn't put them in his eyes at all. Especially over at the main courtyard, they got the news of the students being attacked. 3 elders from the main courtyard were sent over overnight to assist, vowing to bring the force who attacked the students to justice. Devil class's students are seriously injured. I'm afraid there's no way for them to participate in today's interclass competition. There's no point in participating or not participating. Devil class is the Heavenly Academy's waste class. They're all just a bunch of waste. Even if they participate, there's no suspense. What's the point? You can't say that. We have to have a dream. What if we meet a ghost? A tease made the various forces burst out laughing. These ridicules spread to the Heavenly Academy's side, and the few elders and teachers' faces turned extremely ugly. Yun Xiang's face was steely green as he suppressed his anger and said in a low voice, Principal, when Devil class wanted to participate in the interclass competition, we should have rejected them directly. Elder Yun He, who was at the side, immediately nodded his head in agreement. Those trash in the Devil class, each and every one of them is worrisome. Yesterday I accompanied young Master Zhu to the back of the mountain and coincidentally bumped into those wastrels. They were chased by a dozen of low-level magical beasts, and they were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves, attracting so much attention. What a disgrace to our Heavenly Academy. Exactly. Yesterday, at the back of the mountain, young Master Zhu was so annoyed by the wailing and howling of this bunch of trash that he lost the mood to discuss with us. He went straight down the mountain and returned. Another teacher said angrily. They were the masters and elders of the Heavenly Academy. They should be worshipped and envied. But this time, because of the Devil class, they had become the joke of others. This was the first time in their lives that they were not honored and rewarded for their status as elders and masters of the Heavenly Academy. On the other hand, it would become a joke. That's enough. Each of you stop talking. Yun Tian frowned and glanced at the few people who were complaining softly. No matter what the Devil class is like, Devil class is still the Heavenly Academy's class. Don't let outsiders see it as a joke. Chapter 1075. The discussions in the various influential areas were still ongoing. At this moment, the sound of gongs could be heard. Students from all the major classes slowly walked out from the contestants' area in a grandiose manner. At the front were the students from High Profound Class 2 and High Profound Class 1. Because it was an interclass competition, all the students had their own uniform to distinguish their opponents. High Profound Class 2's uniform was a bamboo-colored outfit with the words, High Profound Class 2, embroidered on the back. High Profound Class 1's uniform was a brown outfit with the words, High Profound Class 1, embroidered on the back. Enthusiastic cheers and whistles sounded from various areas, welcoming the entrance of the High Profound Class students. Following that, 2 classes from Intermediate Profound Class appeared. Intermediate Profound Class 1's uniform was green. Intermediate Profound Class 2's uniform was gold, looking extremely energetic. The leader of Intermediate Profound Class 2 was Shangguan Liuli. She was dressed neatly today, with an arrogant look on her face. Her line of sight collided with Lu Shuiyu. Unlike the past, she obediently averted her gaze. On the contrary, Shangguan Liuli provocatively raised her eyebrows, as if she was declaring war on Lu Shuiyu. This action was not subtle at all. The onlookers below immediately whistled and screamed in agreement. Before it even started, there were already such strong sparks from the collision. Today's interclass competition would definitely be exciting. Following that, the students from Low Profound Class 1 and 2 entered the arena. Seeing that everyone's gazes and attention were attracted by the students in these classes, no one bothered to talk about the devil class anymore. The elders and masters finally revealed a warm smile on their faces. Seeing that the atmosphere was heated up enough, Yin Xiang then flew up under the dean's signal, and with one leap, he landed in the middle of the arena. Students from various classes stood around the arena. Yin Xiang glanced at them, circulated his profound qi, and amplified his voice. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and watch the annual interclass competition of the Heavenly Academy. After the opening speech, Yin Xiang directly stated his purpose. In order to motivate all the students to do their best in this year's interclass competition, the dean specially invited the students from our Heavenly Academy's Class of Gods to come and watch. Class of Gods? Damn, they actually managed to invite students from the Class of Gods. It seems like the dean is extremely concerned about this interclass competition. The various forces began to discuss incessantly. Class of Gods. It was the most eye-catching class in the Heavenly Academy. The status of the students in this class was no lower than that of the elders and teachers. Even the dean had to be courteous to the students of the Class of Gods. He was the legend of the Heavenly Academy. Each and every one of these students was talented and possessed their own unique powers. For the students of the Heavenly Academy's Class of Gods, all the major forces wanted to pull them into their own camp. When he heard that the students from the Class of Gods would be coming over to take charge, he was stunned. All of them were extremely excited as they tried to think of ways to attract the attention of the students from the Class of Gods. Seeing the crowd's reaction, Yin Xiang smiled. The good mood that was swept away by the devil class instantly returned. He took a few steps back, raised his hand and applauded with a chuckle. Let us welcome the students of Class of Gods, our Heavenly Academy's #1 beauty, Zi Qianqian. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure dressed in snow-white clothes descended from the sky. Chapter 1076. So beautiful. No wonder she's the #1 beauty of the Heavenly Academy, it's too stunning. Breathtaking voices spread out from the surroundings. The men from various forces stared straight at the woman on the arena. That figure was as light as a rainbow, as it slowly landed beside Yin Xiang. A long white dress made her look like a dream. Due to the exquisite makeup on her face, her beautiful, pure, and moving face seemed a little cold. It made people want to get close, but could not bear to blaspheme. She was as pure as a fairy. This woman, compared to the #1 beauty of the Three Springs City, Yi Qingqian, she was many times more beautiful. She could be called the #1 beauty of the West Continent. Zi Qianqian's red lips curled up slightly, a trace of pride flashed past her eyes. I'm Zi Qianqian, a student of the class of gods. Today, under the order of the dean, I'm here to take charge of the position of the leader. Her clear and sweet voice made those infatuated men's minds ripple. Their eyeballs could not wait to stick on Zi Qianqian, while many female cultivators were livid and couldn't help but curse Vixen in jealousy. But they had to admit that this woman's appearance was peerless. It's my honor to be here today. I would like to thank the dean and the Heavenly Academy for giving me this opportunity. Next, let me talk about the rules of challenging the leader. Zi Qianqian repeated the rules with a voice that sounded like silver bells. This interclass competition was almost the same as the previous year's competitions. First, from the preliminary round, semifinals, finals and grand finals, the class that won would be selected, which was the class that won the championship in the previous years. And for this year's competition, the Heavenly Academy had the class of gods to take charge of the leader. When the class that won the grand finals came out, they could choose whether to challenge the leader. If they chose to challenge the leader, then it would be a showdown between the class that won and the leader. If the leader won, then the leader would be the class of gods. If the leader won, then the leader would be the class that won. Of course, the class that won could also choose to refuse to challenge the leader. In this way, it would still be considered as the class that won the final victory. But the dean gave an extremely tempting condition. That was, if the class that won the championship challenged the overseeing chief and won, then they would be able to select 10 students from the class that won the championship to enter the class of gods and undergo special training that would last for a month. This was a great temptation to countless students. There were 300 to 400 people in the class that won the championship. Even if they made it to the end, 100 or so people would not be able to fight. There were at least 100 or 200 people who could challenge the overseeing chief. Because Zi Qianqian was the only overseer. Even if Zi Qianqian was a student of the class of gods, how could 100 or 200 people not be able to challenge Zi Qianqian? After the rules were explained in detail, the students of the 6 classes were completely excited, especially the students of High Profound Class 2. Their eyes had already lit up. They had already started to discuss in private whether they should challenge the leader. Isn't that a student from the Devil class? The Devil class students are here. There was a sudden commotion in the crowd. He then heard someone shouting the 3 words Devil class. Everyone's gaze immediately followed the sound. Sure enough, he saw more than 60 students walking toward the contestants' area. More than 60 students, dressed in crimson uniforms, were extremely conspicuous. Especially on their right arm, there was a pattern of a cherry blossom that looked like a flame. And on the back of the uniform, there was only one word embroidered. Chapter 1077. Not knowing why, these youths who usually looked lethargic and listless. But today, they seemed especially high-spirited. Their footsteps were light, and their youthful faces were brimming with youthful and confident smiles. Their crimson-colored robes made them look extremely domineering. Those who originally wanted to open their mouths to mock when they heard that Devil class students had arrived, all shut their mouths. They looked at these students in astonishment. How could Devil class students have such an aura? Just as they were in shock. Suddenly, a student who was walking in the middle of the students let out a soft, "Ah." His calf instantly felt a sharp pain, and his entire body fell forward. The Devil class students all lined up neatly and moved forward. With this fall, even the students in front were pushed forward a few steps. One by one, in a split second, the Devil class, which was originally lined up neatly, fell all over the ground, until the students at the back pushed Long Yunjian and the rest who were walking in front, and were supported in time, barely managed to stabilize the few of them. This fall caused the onlookers, who were originally shocked, to burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Trash class is trash class. To think I was so shocked just now. I really thought they had been reborn. I'm dying of laughter. A bunch of trash still want to make a fool of themselves on stage. They can't even walk properly. Hurry back to their mother's womb. and be born again. Tisk tsk, don't say that. This bunch of trash have the guts to participate in the interclass competition. This kind of spirit and courage is still worth learning. This is called spirit and courage? They're simply idiots. All sorts of discussions were going on, causing the student who fell to turn red in the face. He lowered his head, his eyes were already red. So sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Long Yunjan asked in a deep voice. What happened? I don't know, something seemed to have hit my leg. I couldn't stand properly. The student lowered his head guiltily, stretching out his hand to roll up his trousers. Indeed, on his calf, there was a lump of greenish-purple bruise. Obviously, someone had purposely wanted to see Devil Class make a fool of themselves, and used a hidden weapon to attack them. Long Yunjan squinted his cold eyes. His vision followed the angle of the bruise, and looked over. That direction was the direction of Intermediate Profound Class 2. The spectators in that direction were from other continents. Presumably, this hidden weapon should have been thrown over by Intermediate Profound Class 2. Long Yunjan lowered his eyes. Is it affected? The student immediately shook his head. No. Long Yunjan straightened up and returned to the front of the team. Assemble. The students quickly adjusted their positions and neatly followed behind Long Yunjan, walking to their positions. It was as if nothing had happened at all. On the contrary, I feel that this time, Devil Class might be able to get a good ranking. Suddenly, one of the spectators voiced out a different opinion from the rest. It immediately attracted the attention of others. The one who spoke was none other than the representative of the Yuchi family, the second head of the Yuchi family. He was also one of the survivors from the Ling King tomb. Second leader Yuchi, you didn't drink today? How could the Devil Class get a good ranking? From what I see, this Devil Class will be eliminated in the first round of the preliminary competition today. Don't forget, Devil Class has the World Group's Vice Group Leader, Yiqing Luo. Yuchi's second master said it word by word. Chapter 1078. Vice Leader of the World Group. They were no strangers to this mercenary group. After the battle in the Ling King's tomb, the World Mercenary Group had become completely famous. Yiqing Luo's name had also become the topic of discussion among various powerhouses. Yiqing Luo was in the Devil Class. That was true. He might be able to get a good ranking by relying on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo? It seems like I didn't see Yiqing Luo in Devil Class. Someone looked around, scanning all the Devil Class's students, but didn't see Yiqing Luo's figure at all. When the crowd heard this, they also started to look for Yiqing Luo. But he discovered that among the students in Devil Class, there was no sign of Yiqing Luo at all. Yiqing Luo was actually not around. Yiqing Luo actually didn't participate in the competition. Second leader Yuchi, this is a class competition, not an individual battle. Even if Yiqing Luo is really as powerful as what you said, that's her problem alone. Look at that group of trash who can't even walk properly. Even if there were 10 Yiqing Luos, there's no way to change the fact that their class is filled with trash. Also, the students from the Devil Class yesterday, all of them were severely injured. Yes. I was at the scene and personally saw them being carried back to their dormitories. I'm afraid that they're forcing themselves to participate in today's competition. Tisk tsk. I really don't know if these trash from Devil Class have something wrong with their brains to force themselves to participate in the competition when they're seriously injured. I'm afraid this is the reason why Yiqing Luo doesn't dare to participate in the competition. Yiqing Luo doesn't have the face to take part in the competition. She doesn't even dare to appear. Ha ha ha. This is a wise choice. She's a young genius who's being talked about by all the big forces. She's the second overlord. If she loses here, won't she lose all her face? There were waves of sarcasm and ridicule. Second head Yuchi creased his brows as he shook his head in disbelief. Impossible. How could Yiqing Luo not be participating in the competition? It was because Yiqing Luo was going to take part in the competition that the Patriarch specially sent him over as Yuchi's representative. Otherwise, was there a need for him, the second in command, To come personally for a class competition? One had to know. Yiqing Luo had made a blood oath with Shangguan Liuli to win first place. If Yiqing Luo didn't participate in the competition, it was highly possible that the devil class would not even be able to enter the preliminary round. So how would they be able to win? And at this moment, Shangguan Liuli, who was standing at the front row of Intermediate Profound Class 2, was also sizing up Devil Class's side. After confirming that he didn't see Yiqing Luo's figure, his eyes revealed a complacent smile. The Lord Protector really did not lie to her. As expected, Yiqing Luo would not take part in the competition. Then, Devil Class would definitely not be able to advance to the preliminary round. Facing everyone's questioning gazes, the students of the Devil Class did not change their expressions, as though they were already used to everyone's colored gazes. Their eyes were resolute, their backs straight, and they stood ramrod straight. In their minds were the words that Yiqing Luo said to them before she left. She said, "The mission I'm giving you is to straighten your chests and take back your self-respect. Tell the world that you are not trash." She said, "I don't want to be spurned and despised by those people anymore. I don't want others to call you trash and humiliate you. Then this is a battle for your dignity." She said, "For your dignity, for the honor of the Devil Class, and also for me. I believe that all of you, after going through the torturous training and difficult obstacles, you who have always stood here strong, are the best." Chapter 1079. Dong. The preliminary round's gong rang. Devil Class's students stood up straighter than before. Pairs of bright eyes were filled with hope and unwavering luster. They looked towards Yin Xiang's direction, watching as he announced the first round's rules. The corners of his lips carried a confident smile. No one took a step back, and no one was disheartened. They would wait for Yiqing Luo to return, to bring Yifeng Yu back safely. The crowd's hearts trembled. Those who were obviously still childish and had the reputation of waste had a spirited smile on their faces. No, to put it more accurately, that smile was hope. Time, rewinding back to 5 o'clock, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. All the students were dressed in the uniform which Yiqing Luo had long prepared, as they did their morning exercises in the courtyard. Yiqing Luo pointed out each student's shortcomings and bad habits, one by one, teaching them how to avoid it. Just as she was saying that, she saw something like a black fog, like an arrow leaving the bow, attacking speedily. Yiqing Luo's reaction was swift, as she pushed the students in front of her, and took a swift step backwards. But unexpectedly, that black fog seemed to have locked onto Yiqing Luo, as it charged towards her direction once again. Yiqing Luo then saw clearly, that was a lump. A black fog which looked like a bird. Black bird. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly surfaced the words which she overheard from Shangguan Liuli last night. This was the summoning item which the dark forces used, Blackbird. Yiqing Luo stopped her evasive footsteps, as she stretched out her hand towards that black bird-shaped fog. Indeed, that black bird landed in her palm. In a blink, it turned into a piece of white paper. Yiqing Luo opened it, as she swept a glance at the contents, as her expression sunk. "What's the matter?" Long Yunjian noticed the change in Yiqing Luo's expression, as he walked over and took that letter. After taking a look, Long Yunjian's icy cold eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. He frowned. "You bring everyone to participate in the competition, I'll go. The dark forces have specially named me, they want me to go." Yiqing Luo's voice was calm, without any emotions. "No way," Long Yunjian directly rejected. "I don't agree to let you go alone." "What's going on?" Xiao Jin asked when he saw that the two of them were in a deadlock. Yiqing Luo looked at him calmly. "Xiao Yu is in the hands of the dark forces. Let me go look for them now." "No." Xiao Jin had the same opinion as Long Yunjian. "The dark forces are sinister and cunning. They are full of tricks. You can't go. This was obviously a trap set by the dark forces. You still have to bring everyone to participate in the inter-class competition. If you go, what will happen to the devil class?" Xiao Jin supported Yiqing Luo's shoulders with both hands. Tell me, where is Xiao Yu locked up? I'll go. Devil class has you guys, and I believe that even if I'm not around, you guys will still be able to successfully enter the semifinals. Yi Qing Luo laughs softly. Moreover speaking, it's useless no matter which one of you goes. The dark force's target is me. Xiao Jin and Long Yunjan's faces were ashen as they exchanged glances. He did not want Yi Qing Luo to take the risk, but he didn't know how to stop it. Xiao Jin scratched his head and looked around. Where's Dizun? Have any of you seen the Dizun? He left early in the morning. Perhaps the main courtyard needs him. Yi Qing Luo woke up early in the morning, and there was no sign of Dmo Xian beside her. Chapter 1080. I have no choice. Yi Qing Luo knew that they were all concerned about her. However, the dark forces were using Yi Fingyu's life as a hostage. She had to compromise. Was this the reason why the dark forces kidnapped Yi Fengyu? Was it to force her to meet the dark forces alone, so that she wouldn't be able to participate in the interclass competition? Last night, the Dark Protector had said that he wanted the Devil class to be eliminated in the preliminary round. What did they do to Shengguan Liuli this time? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she spoke in a serious tone. You don't have to worry about me. If there's really an accident, I have a way to protect my life. But you, during the competition, take note of Shengguan Liulian. The other students. Shengguan Liuli was not the only one who was attracted by the mysterious Yin Qi. There were also other students. In this other world, the strong were respected and strength was supreme. Every profound practitioner's thirst for power had already reached the point where they were willing to pay any price. Especially, the dark forces had long infiltrated the Heavenly Academy, turning the Heavenly Academy into a breeding ground for pure souls. Other than Shengguan Liuli, there must be many other students. In the end, they weren't able to change Yi Qing Luo's mind, and they knew that they had no way to stop her. She could only tell Dmo Xian about it after she saw him. Placing all their hopes on Dmo Xian, Yi Qing Luo flipped over and leapt onto Shiju's back as Long Yunjian called out to her. She looked back, her expression calm. However, in the depths of his eyes, there was a bottomless whirlpool. Long Yunjian furrowed his brows and looked at her for a while before warning. No matter what happens, don't be impulsive. Right now, you can't be impulsive. During the competition period, students were not allowed to fight or kill each other in private. Just like the attack on the Devil class. If it wasn't for the fact that the dark forces had taken away all the corpses of the students from the Devil class, Devil class would then be disqualified from the competition because they had killed someone. Yi Fengyu was in the hands of the dark forces. His life was safe, but it was inevitable that he would be injured if Yi Qing Luo were to act rashly and hurt someone. I know. Yi Qing Luo replied indifferently. In the most inconspicuous abandoned temple in the Western continent, behind the Buddha statue was a tunnel. At this moment, the Buddha statue seemed to be surrounded by a thin layer of transparent fluorescent light. This was the fluorescence of a barrier. At the bottom of the tunnel, a slender figure was hung on a wooden frame with her limbs spread wide open. His greenish-white uniform was extremely disheveled, and there were a few obvious bloodstains on it. There were also a few spots on his clothes that were stained with blood that had congealed and stuck to his body. The youth was in a sorry state. His breathing was extremely shallow, and his vision was gradually blurring. He could faintly hear the voices of two women talking. He felt it was familiar, but he couldn't focus on identifying it. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, he heard the sound of something tearing through the air. A barbed whip landed ruthlessly on his body. The piercing pain caused the youth to scream out in pain. He sucked in a breath of cold air and regained his consciousness. Amidst the cold sweat, he saw a slender figure standing in front of him. The figure was petite and wore a black cloak. Under the dim light of the dungeon, it was impossible to see the person's face clearly. Does it hurt? Pain is the right thing to do. The woman's voice seemed to be filled with madness and intense resentment. The whip landed on his body again. Chapter 1081. Yi Fengyu groaned in pain as his ears buzzed incessantly. The woman's shrill screams pierced his brain. Scream! Scream louder! Scream more miserably! When that good sister of yours comes over, let her enjoy your performance. The woman whipped Yi Fengyu's body again. In her agitation, the cloak on her head slid down. A beautiful face was revealed, but its features were twisted and hideous. Yi Fengyu's eyes widened. The pain in his body was no match for the pain and shock in his heart. He opened his mouth wide and shouted incredulously, fourth sister." This woman was none other than his fourth sister who had been missing for many days. Yi Qingling. Ever since Yi Qingling's profound jade heart was destroyed by Yi Qingluo, and her meridians were broken, Yi Qingling was driven out of the Yi family in Three Springs City. He had never seen her again. It wasn't that Yi Fengyu didn't think of asking second brother to find the whereabouts of fourth sister. But second brother didn't say anything after hearing it. And he was just a child who wasn't pampered. He didn't have the ability to look for fourth sister. It's been a few months. He didn't expect to see his fourth sister again in such a situation. After Yi Qingling heard his flabbergasted tone, she laughed maniacally. "Did you think that I had my profound jade heart destroyed, my meridians broken, and I've already become a waste? After being chased out of the Yi family, I wouldn't be able to continue living? No. Fourth sister, of course I'm happy that you're alive. Father and old ancestor will." Yi Fengyu hadn't finished his words when he was interrupted by Yi Qingling. "Shut up. Don't mention those two old guys in front of me. As long as I have enough ability, I will destroy the Yi family. Destroy Three Springs sect. Just like now, I will destroy you." Yi Fengyu's eyes widened as the luster gradually dimmed. Obviously, the current Yi Qingling was already possessed. She had been completely engulfed by hatred. Right now, she only had one goal in her mind, and that was revenge. Yi Fengyu knew that no matter what he said, it would be in vain. The most important thing now was to think of a way to leave this place, or to stop his sister from coming here. Yi Qingling's hatred towards her sister had reached a state of madness. He could not let his sister fall into danger because of him. Following that, no matter how hard Yi Qingling's whip lashed, how ruthless, his body was in so much pain that he felt like he was going to suffocate in the next second. Yi Fengyu didn't make another sound. He had bitten his lower lip, and the sweet blood was mixed in his mouth. "Sure. Let's see how long you can be stubborn for." Yi Qingling roared. The target of the whip did not make a single sound. To Yi Qingling, there was no spiritual pleasure at all. What she wanted to see, it was Yi Fengyu's fearful expression, and Yi Fengyu's unceasing begging for mercy. She wanted Yi Qingluo to witness with her own eyes how her beloved brother was tormented by her, living a life worse than death. Yi Qingling's eyes were filled with madness. The wantonly black aura in his eyes seemed to want to devour her. But she was totally unaware of it. She soaked the long whip in the salt water, and immediately pulled it out. The splashing salt water dripped onto Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu sucked in a breath of cold air, and restrained himself for a long time before he cried out. Chapter 1082. Endure it. I'd like to see how long you can endure. Yi Qingling laughed crazily. Her facial features were hideous, extremely terrifying. Linger. An indifferent and sweet voice came from the darkness of the dungeon. Yi Fengyu seemed to see the entrance of the tunnel. A slender figure stood against the light. He couldn't see clearly, only heard the voice again. "Don't play him to death. If he dies, there will be no tool to restrain Yi Qingluo." Yi Qingling loosened her fingers and gradually came back to her senses. She took a few steps back and smiled at the person behind her. "Fortunately, Sister Protector reminded me. I will pay attention." Out of nowhere, Yi Qingling fished out a sharp dagger and pressed it against his face. "I can't kill you, but I didn't say I can't make you wish you were dead." She laughed a few times and gently moved the dagger. The sharp dagger grazed his skin. Immediately, a thin piece of skin was cut off. Blood gushed out and soaked the dagger. Yi Fengyu was in so much pain that he sucked in cold air, breathing heavily. Yi Qingling laughed crazily. The black gas in her pupils reflected the blood on his body. She licked her red lips. He raised his dagger again and slashed at Yi Fengyu's body. I want to peel off your skin layer by layer. Let Yi Qing Luo see, brother dressed in blood. The words stopped at the tip of his tongue. That sinister smile froze on his face for a moment. Linga. The person standing at the entrance of the tunnel frowned and called out in a low voice. But there was no response from Yi Qing Ling. She immediately stood up and walked quickly towards her brother. Her whole person was stunned on the spot, only to see a red figure stood between Yi Qing Ling and Yi Fengyu. That crimson-red dress, under the dim light of the fire, looked like rippling blood. It was extremely glaring, like a bloodthirsty azure from hell, stepping on blood light. That beautiful face that could topple a city was expressionless. Her long and narrow eyes were like an iceberg, frosted over. Just staring at her lightly made her feel like she was frozen, unable to move. Yi Qing Luo. The person in front of her was Yi Qing Luo. When did she come in? Yi Qing Ling was also dumbfounded. Sister Protector, aren't you guarding the entrance? How did she? That person shook his head, also extremely terrified. Now there was actually someone who had entered the tunnel right under her nose. However, she was completely unaware of it. Yi Qing Luo. How much had she grown? Too scary. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes were suffused with a cold glint. She didn't pay attention to the two of them. Instead, she turned around and looked at Yi Fengyu, who was covered in blood and had been tortured to the point that he didn't even look human. The whirlpools in her eyes suddenly became like a tornado. She raised her finger, took out a pill, and stuffed it into his mouth. Her fingers quickly knocked on his body a few times. Xiaoyu, don't be afraid. Big sister is here. Her voice was warm and sweet. It was as gentle as a warm breeze, entering Yi Fengyu's heart. He wasn't sure if it was the effect of the medicine or Yi Qing Luo's arrival. Yi Fengyu only felt that the pain in his body instantly disappeared wherever the warm current passed through. His consciousness had also become much clearer. When he opened his eyes, he saw the smiling face in front of him. She smiled, and her relief was mixed with comfort. Yi Fengyu nodded, the luster in his eyes was firm. Chapter 1083. Yi Qing Luo, you actually came. Yi Qing Ling quickly returned to the woman's back, looking at Yi Qing Luo with fear and excitement. She had not expected that Yi Qing Luo would actually give up on the interclass competition, which was a matter of life and death, for her brother Fengyu, even though she knew it was a trap. What a deep sibling relationship. Unfortunately, Yi Qing Luo's sibling relationship was deep. In her eyes, it would only remind her of the time when Yi Qing Luo turned her into a cripple without any scruples. The black gas in Yi Qing Ling's eyes became more and more intense. The hatred in her heart had been completely swallowed by the profound yin qi. Yi Qing Luo naturally noticed this point, but she didn't take it to heart. Whether Yi Qing Ling was going to become food for the profound yin qi or not. Today, Yi Qing Ling must die here. You touched my brother. I naturally have to come and collect your corpse. Yi Qing Luo slowly turned around and stared at the two women in black robes in front of her. Her pink lips raised slightly, revealing a bloodthirsty sneer, full of murderous intent. Yi Qing Ling was frightened by that smile, trembling and stuttering. Want to kill us? You don't have this ability. Guardian sister, let's do it. Guardian sister? Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. Her cold smile bloomed like a poppy. The terrifying storm in her eyes seemed to be sucking people into her vortex. Not only Yi Qing Ling's throat tightened, that woman also couldn't stop trembling at this time. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was filled with ridicule as she slowly walked towards them. With every step she took, the aura on her body was released. The violent and majestic energy made her blood-red dress flutter. Her long hair bared and brandished her claws. Yi Qing Qian, you hate the Yi family so much that you even want to abandon your own name? Yi Qing Luo laughed out lowly. That burst after burst of laughter, like a cold hand, ruthlessly piercing one's heart. That woman in a cloak, other than Yi Qing Qian. Who else could it be? Yi Qing Luo sneered. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Her palm moved, and the glower flame fan was already in her hands. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these two. Yi Qingling had completely touched her reverse scale. She couldn't bear to see her younger brother get hurt. How dare Yi Qingling hurt him like this? And the students of the devil class, her companions. Did Yi Qingling really think that with Yi Qingqian and the dark forces as her backing, she could be unbridled? The rage in Yi Qingluo's eyes surged and her profound qi suddenly broke out of her body. The powerful energy seemed to have solidified the surrounding air. The unfurled devouring flame fan rotated in the center of his palm. Like a ball of raging flames, it suddenly blossomed and burned. It turned into a fire dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards the two of them. Yi Fengyu's injuries wouldn't last long. Moreover, this was the territory of the dark world. He had to end the battle quickly. Yi Qingqian widened her beautiful eyes in shock. Under this powerful aura, they didn't even have the strength to move. Seeing that the fire dragon was about to attack, Yi Qingqian's eyes sunk as she pursed her lips tightly. She mustered all her strength and flipped her palm. A cloud of black mist shot out from the palm of his hand. That mist turned into the shape of a black bird as it suddenly shot up to the horizon. More than a dozen black-robed Dharma protectors of the dark forces rushed out from all directions of the tunnel. Without a second word, they directly attacked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Chapter 1084. Yi Qingluo's eyes turned cold as her lips curled into a faint smile. Long and narrow eyes, curved eyebrows. Like she was smiling. But the emotions on that face made one's heart tremble inexplicably. More than 10 black-robed protectors swarmed over. A few streaks of black qi flashed past. The fire dragon created by Yi Qingluo's feather fan was completely defeated. The flames were consumed in midair. Following that, those black-robed protectors burst out a dense profound yin qi. Their entire bodies seemed to be shrouded in black smoke. Sister. Yi Fengyu was stunned as he looked at these black smoke-curling people in front of him in astonishment. These people, were they still human? Yi Qingluo threw the glower flame fan in her hand into midair. Just as the glower flame fan was about to fall, her feet stepped on the ground, and her figure was light as she leapt into midair. She stretched out her hand and firmly held the fan handle. At the same time, when that feather fan opened up, a terrifying aura swept out, accompanied by a sharp piercing explosion. An enchanting red light shot out from that open glower flame fan. Bang! Bang bang. A few explosions rang through the air, and soon after, the black smoke-like gas was covered by the red light. Ah! A few screams were heard as those black-robed protectors who attacked in mid-air were injured by this burst of qi. They directly fell from mid-air and fell to the ground. There were a few who reacted quickly and avoided that burst of qi at the same time. When the black qi was defeated, Yi Qingluo did not give them any breathing space. A cold glint flashed in her eyes as her figure quickly spread out. Her footwork was strange, but in the blink of an eye, she had already moved close to the back of one of the black-robed protectors. The glower flame fan in her hand flashed a red light. Without a sound, it cut that black-robed protector's neck. Fresh blood gushed out. Yi Qingluo's figure, like a ghost, disappeared from everyone's line of sight. The black-robed protectors immediately focused and keenly sensed Yi Qingluo's existence. They couldn't believe it. Yi Qingluo's speed was actually so fast. Even they could not catch any traces of Yi Qingluo's figure. Didn't the Saint Law say that Yi Qingluo was just a young girl who had just advanced to Earth Profound 4th grade? How could he possess such godly speed? Be careful. This slut has a set of footwork that no one can break. Yi Qingqian immediately warned. As he spoke, he heard the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Not far from the black-robed protector, whose neck had been slit by Yi Qingluo, another black-robed protector had also fallen to the ground without any signs of life. However, none of them had sensed Yi Qingluo's presence. It was as if Yi Qingluo had already turned invisible, as though she was one with the air. The dozen or so black-robed protectors were shocked. Damn it! Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Unbreakable footwork. If we can't find her, how can we subdue her? The few black-robed guardians' hearts were palpitating with fear, deeply afraid that Yiqing Luo would appear behind them and silently take away their lives. So they couldn't help but grumble. Yiqing Qian remained silent for a moment, and suddenly thought of something. Her gaze was like a sharp blade as she shot straight towards Yi Fengyu, who was tied to the rack. Catch Yi Fengyu. As long as Yi Fengyu is in our hands, she will have to obediently show herself. A way to restrain Yiqing Luo's strange footwork. The Saint Law didn't tell her. Now, they could only make use of Yi Fengyu to force Yiqing Luo to show herself. Otherwise, let Yiqing Luo use this method to sneak an attack. Chapter 1085. When the few black-robed guardians heard that, they immediately reacted. The few of them flew swiftly towards the direction of the shelf. One of them opened his fingers and turned it into an eagle's claw, heading straight for Yi Fengyu's head. But unexpectedly, that young man who was originally tied tightly on the shelf was covered in blood and was in a semi-conscious state. He suddenly opened his eyes. That pair of clear eyes, there wasn't a hint of haziness in them. There was only a biting, cold, murderous intent. Yi Fengyu's limbs swiftly pulled out his hands from the long, untied iron chain. His palm moved and profound qi broke out of his body. He directly slapped the face of the defenseless black-robed protector, who was at the forefront of the charge. Profound qi exploded downwards. The black-robed protector was immediately sent flying by the explosion. His entire head exploded. Yi Fengyu's breathing was hurried as he withdrew his hand, trembling non-stop. After this action, he was shocked to realize that his entire body was trembling because of fear. The first time he killed someone in such a brutal way, to a young man whose temperament was still immature, it indeed made him panic. But Yi Fengyu didn't feel any regret. Yiqing Luo knew that it was dangerous, but she resolutely chose to come to the Dark Forces territory to save him. He absolutely could not let himself become Yiqing Luo's burden. After killing one person, Yi Fengyu had not regained his senses. The other black-robed guardians charged towards Yi Fengyu with an extremely ugly expression. Just at this moment, a sweet voice was heard, neither fast nor slow, word by word. That voice was filled with an enchanting charm, but it made one shiver. Ah! A panicked cry was heard, accompanied by Yiqing Luo's bell-like laughter. Those few black-robed guardians' actions immediately stiffened. Guardian who? The black-robed guardian shouted anxiously. Yiqing Luo, what are you trying to do? If you dare to hurt Guardian who, your little life will not be guaranteed. The few stiff black-robed guardians turned their heads in unison. They saw a blazing figure standing against the light at the entrance of the tunnel. Her 5 fingers locked onto Yiqing Qian's neck. A cold and bloodthirsty sneer hung on her face. Protector who? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she took a look at the pale-faced young lady. You're indeed bewitching, but what shocked me is that you've only joined the Dark Forces for such a short period of time, and you actually have so many trusted aides who are willing to be used by you. Yiqing Luo guessed that Yiqing Jian should have joined the Dark Forces, becoming a guardian or elder of the Dark Forces. He just didn't expect it. Not only had Yiqing Qian become a guardian, it seemed like she had absolute prestige in front of the other guardians. Yiqing Luo, you dared to touch me, try and see. Yiqing Qian's face was pale as she spoke harshly. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and laughed lowly. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Didn't you want to use Xiaoyu to threaten me? So, I will use you to threaten the Dark Forces. Yiqing Qian's influence on the Dark Forces was so huge, which was something which Yiqing Luo had not expected. Since she had detected this, Yiqing Luo would naturally make use of it. She curled her lips and glanced at something out of the corner of her eyes. Then he nodded his head in a barely audible manner. Yiqing Qian was the closest and noticed Yiqing Luo's little action. Her expression suddenly turned serious. She shouted at those black-robed protectors who were looking at her in fear. Quick! Stop Yi Fengyu! You cannot let him leave. Chapter 1086. Yi Qingqian had just opened her mouth. A huge leopard with shiny black fur was behind them, as fast as lightning as it sped towards the entrance of the underground tunnel. On top of that leopard sat a young man who was covered in blood. Enchantment. Quickly close the enchantment. Yi Qingqian's eyes were scarlet red as she commanded sternly. She knew very well that once Yi Fengyu, who was a threat to Yi Qingluo, escaped the dungeon, they had no tools to restrict Yi Qingluo. If Yi Qingluo summoned a divine dragon, or a sacred beast for protection, they had no way to leave the underground tunnel alive. The situation that was supposed to be a sure win would be reversed. She was too careless, too overconfident. She had forgotten to close the enchantment after those black-robed guardians entered the underground tunnel. Yi Qingluo's fingers suddenly clenched tightly, causing Yi Qingqian to suffocate, unable to make a single sound. Hearing Yi Qingqian's voice stopped abruptly. These black-robed guardians' attention was slightly diverted towards Yi Qingqian. To them, protecting Yi Qingqian was the most important thing. If anything happened to Yi Qingqian, none of them could escape. It was this moment of distraction. Shi Ju had already brought Yi Fengyu, and escaped the moment the enchantment closed. Stupid idiot. Yi Qingqian was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Her hoarse throat spat out 2 words with difficulty, but the strength of the grip on her neck made her unable to speak at all. Yi Qingluo lowered her eyes, gazing at Yi Qingqian, whose face was flushed red from holding her breath. Her beautiful eyes filled with hatred and viciousness. Her lips curled into a cold arc. Yi Qingqian now. Let's calculate. How should I help Xiaoyu to get back the injuries he had suffered? Yi Qingqian's eyes were filled with fear. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't muster up any strength. Her eyes widened as she refused to admit defeat. Yi Qingluo, Yi Fengyu's injuries were all caused by you. And devil class. Those useless things. It's all because of you that they suffered such treatment. Yi Qingluo's gaze was as cold as ice. Her smile froze. Her slender fingers mercilessly pinched hard. The sudden strength made Yi Qingqian's throat tighten, as she coughed violently. Not long after, that delicate face gradually flushed red and turned purple. Protector Hu, Yi Qingluo, you'd better release Guardian Hu immediately. Otherwise, don't even think of leaving this place alive. The expressions of the other black-robed protectors changed drastically, and they were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. Yi Qingluo, on the other hand, stopped increasing her strength, as she slowly raised her eyes and gazed at those restless black-robed guardians, as her lips curled into a sweet smile. Don't tell me that if I let her go, I will be able to leave here alive. Hearing this, the black-robed protector was overjoyed and immediately nodded. Yes. As long as you release Guardian Hu, you can leave this place. You think I'm naive? Yi Qingluo's smile became even more enchanting. Her slender fingers gently caressed the neck of Yi Qingqian, who was on the verge of fainting. If I let her go, I really won't be able to leave. What do you want? The black-robed protector looked nervously at the still-breathing Yi Qingqian, and softened his tone to discuss the deal with her. Yi Qingluo's brows rose, as she felt increasingly curious. What capabilities did Yi Qingqian have? In a short period of time, he had gained such a high position in the Dark Forces. The Dark Organization did not limit the number of Guardian Elders. Chapter 1087. Among those Guardians or Elders, everyone had the same status. Then, how could Yi Qingqian make so many Guardians so nervous? Yi Qingluo pondered for a moment, and slowly dragged the suffocating and limp Yi Qingqian directly towards the entrance of the tunnel. She curled her lips and said coldly, "Open the enchantment." The black-robed protectors looked at each other, then at each other. But no one moved an inch. Yi Qingluo laughed. "You don't even dare to open the enchantment. How can you talk about letting me go? You people from the Dark Forces really can't believe what you say." After that, she shook her head helplessly. "Then before I die, I will torture her to death first." "No. Let's open the enchantment." "Let's open." The black-robed guardian immediately opened his mouth to stop her. One of the black-robed guardians immediately headed towards the direction of the entrance. From time to time, he turned his head and looked at Yiqing Luo, paying attention to whether she was playing any tricks. The black-robed guardian had just walked to the entrance when Yiqing Ling, who was shivering at the side, suddenly shouted, "Don't open the enchantment. If she leaves the tunnel, all of us will die." The black-robed guardian paused and looked at Yiqing Ling, his voice hoarse. "Nothing must happen to Guardian Hu. Without her there's still me, isn't it? I can be the Guardian Hu. Just by sacrificing herself, she can subdue Yiqing Luo. Then she can complete the task, which his lordship has entrusted to her." Yiqing Ling pursed her red lips tightly. She didn't want to let Yiqing Luo go. She wanted to see Yiqing Luo walking towards death. How could she be willing to let Yiqing Luo leave so easily? Even if Yiqing Qian died, so what? She had already joined the dark forces. Why not replace Yiqing Qian to become the second Guardian Hu? Moreover, do you think Yiqing Luo, this little slut, will really comply with your deal? Don't forget, none of you can break that strange footwork of hers. Even my sister, she can't see through Yiqing Luo's footwork. Moreover, once you really open the enchantment, she will definitely kill my sister directly, and then use her footwork to leave the tunnel. Even if you want to chase after her, I'm afraid you don't have this ability. Yiqing Ling's words were extremely reasonable. The black-robed protector also began to hesitate. Yiqing Jian, who had not completely fainted, felt a chill in her heart. She didn't expect that her younger sister would actually want to replace her current position. It was rare for her to have a close sisterly relationship. However, he didn't expect that this so-called deep love was just mutual exploitation. Yiqing Luo seemed to have sensed Yiqing Qian's self-deprecation. She lowered her eyes, which were deep and dark, and contained a terrifying storm. She stared at Yiqing Qian for a long while before her lips curled up in disdain, and her voice was cold. "People like you never know how to give your heart to others. So how can you talk about true feelings?" Her voice paused for a moment before she continued. "People like you will never be able to have true feelings." Yiqing Qian's breathing gradually slowed down as her complexion turned from purplish-green back to pale white. She panted heavily as her beautiful eyes stared venomously at Yiqing Luo, saying word by word, "If you have the ability, kill me now. To be able to drag you along with me before I go to hell. I can die without regrets." "Oh, since when did eldest sister have such guts?" Yiqing Luo cried out in shock as she clicked her tongue and couldn't stop praising. "Eldest sister has such backbone. If I don't fulfill eldest sister's wish, wouldn't that be disrespecting eldest sister?" Chapter 1088. She chuckled, her eyes curved. "What fourth sister did to little you earlier, I can use it." Her fingertips moved. A sharp dagger was drawn under the fan handle. Her pink lips curved slightly. The cold luster in her eyes seemed to be able to absorb everything in the world. The dagger moved lightly, grazing the skin on Yiqing Qian's neck. A thin layer of skin was directly peeled off. Yiqing Qian cried out in pain. Fresh blood gushed out. "Fourth sister wants little you to taste the pain of peeling off his skin, then I will let eldest sister taste this pain first." Yiqing Luo smiled charmingly. The expression on her face was calm and composed, as if peeling off her skin and pulling out her tendons was a normal thing. Yiqing Qian kept howling in pain. The pain of her flesh being peeled off was simply unbearable. She struggled, trying to break free from Yiqing Luo's torture. But the moment she moved, her body was grazed by the dagger, leaving streaks of blood marks. Finally, Yiqing Qian could not bear the pain. Tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes. Her voice was hoarse and trembling. "Open the enchantment! Open the enchantment!" Yiqing Luo flipped her palm. The bloody dagger became clean in an instant, shining with a dazzling luster. The dagger was kept back into the glower flame fan. She smiled, her eyes calm. "You should have been obedient. Why are you so stubborn to suffer such torture? Those who don't know would think you like to suffer such treatment." Yiqing Qian was trembling with anger. That black-robed protector walked to the entrance of the tunnel, listened to the command, and was about to open the enchantment. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed a gloomy sneer. In her heart, she had already silently recited the teleportation chant, ready to bring Yiqing Qian out of the enchantment. As long as she broke through this enchantment, the dark forces would not be able to trap her. Suddenly, the entire tunnel, the wind and clouds surged, the weather changed. A hurricane rose in the tunnel. The vast and majestic aura caused the entire tunnel to emit a rumbling sound that shook the mountains and the earth. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt an invisible pressure, making her somewhat breathless. Her eyes sunk. An ominous premonition surged from the bottom of her heart. Looking down, she saw Yiqing Qian, who was being dragged by her. A strange sneer appeared on the corner of her mouth. Her beautiful eyes were clear and blood-red. He laughed savagely. "Your time has come." Yiqing Luo had yet to react. She could only feel a surge of profound qi coming straight at her face. That strong, imposing manner made even Yiqing Luo panicky. The last incantation of teleportation just happened to be spat out silently. Her figure flashed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, when she wanted to forcefully bring Yiqing Qian away, she was restrained by an invisible force. Yiqing Luo could only give up. When her figure appeared and stood in a corner of the tunnel, she raised her eyes and looked over. She saw that the place where she was standing just now had a huge crater. If she had dodged in time just now, she was afraid that now, the one who would be smashed to pieces would be her. Who could it be? It actually possessed such great power. Even from Emotian's body, she had never sensed such powerful energy. Lord Saint Technique. A few black-robed protectors respectfully called out in unison, then knelt down in the direction of the tunnel entrance. Saint Technique? One of the 4 great Saint Techniques under the King of Darkness? Yiqing Luo frowned, followed their line of sight vigilantly, and looked over. She saw a tall figure standing at the entrance of the tunnel. Chapter 1089. A black cloak covered his entire body. The black brocade clothes under the cloak were of high quality, and were embroidered with strange totems with golden threads. The pair of eyes under the cloak were as cold as a poisonous snake, revealing an evil chill. Such a person, just by looking at his appearance, one could tell that he was not someone to be trifled with. A bunch of trash. An indifferent voice, without any emotion. The Holy Technique's gaze swept past, and saw the bodies of those black-robed protectors exploded. Instantly, the entire tunnel was filled with flesh and blood. A strong smell of blood filled the air. Yiqing Luo's brows tightened. The tunnel was too narrow, and she had tried her best to avoid the splattered flesh and blood. But there was still a small amount of flesh and blood that landed on her. Her brows tightened even more as she stared at that person vigilantly. This Holy Technique. It was different from the one she met outside the Ling Ling King's tomb. This Holy Technique was obviously crueler, more arrogant and more arrogant. He was extremely confident in himself. Take his act of directly killing these black-robed protectors as an example. It was enough to prove his confidence in himself. He was declaring war on Yiqing Luo. He didn't need these useless people who dragged him down to help. He alone was enough to deal with her. The dark forces were well aware of some of her abilities, such as the Divine Dragon and the White Tiger. And this Holy Technique, knowing that she had the protection of the Divine Dragon and White Tiger, was still so confident. Then there were only 2 answers. First, he didn't get the news from the dark forces, and didn't know that she had the Divine Dragon and White Tiger, so he dared to be so arrogant. Second, his ability was so strong that he didn't fear the existence of the Divine Dragon and White Tiger. The current situation was afraid that it was the second answer. The relationship between the Holy Technique and Yiqing Qian was obviously not ordinary. If Yiqing Qian was around, it was impossible that the Holy Technique didn't know anything about her. Just when Yiqing Luo was extremely vigilant, the Holy Technique lowered his eyes and stared at the woman in his arms after killing the other black-robed protectors. Does it hurt? Yiqing Qian was drowsy and her beautiful eyes looked at the man who was hugging her as her lips curled into a relaxed smile. Yes. The Saint Law's gaze turned cold as his line of sight fell upon Yi Qingling, who was curled up in the corner and retching incessantly. Yi Qingling was stunned by his gaze, and her delicate body trembled as she looked at the holy technique. You take care of her. His ice-cold voice carried a chilling aura. If there's even the slightest mistake, this holy technique will make you wish you were dead. Yi Qingling shuddered as she walked towards them with weak legs. The minute they got close, the holy technique had already pressed Yi Qingqian's entire body onto her. Yi Qingling barely managed to stabilize her body and carefully hugged Yi Qingqian as she half knelt on the ground. She placed Yi Qingqian on her body before she dared to look at the holy technique. Give her medicine. Saying that, he threw down a medicine bottle and directly walked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Yi Qingling trembled as she clutched the bottle tightly. Looking at Yi Qingqian, who was lying on her lap, her face was filled with fear. She had been with the dark forces for almost 2 months. Naturally, he knew the status of the 4 great saint techniques in the dark forces. She had never expected this. His sister actually had such a close relationship with the holy technique. Just now when the holy technique looked at her, his gaze was cold and bone-chilling. It seemed that as long as he moved his eyelashes slightly, he could take away her life. Chapter 1090. Yi Qingqian gave a light harumph and didn't answer her question. Yi Qingling was so scared that she started crying. Sister, I'm sorry. I was wrong just now. I was blinded by greed because I wanted to live on. Seeing that Yi Qingqian was still ignoring her, Yi Qingling felt uneasy. Big sister, can you forgive me? I know I'm heartless and unscrupulous. I've forgotten my sister's kindness to me. She unscrewed the bottle, and as she applied medicine for Yi Qingqian, she sobbed softly. It was Big Sister who gave Ling-Er a second life. It was Big Sister who gave Ling-Er a chance to live. Even if Ling-Er were to go through fire and water for Big Sister, I would never be able to repay Big Sister's kindness. The cold ointment stopped the pain in his body. Yi Qingqian's consciousness had gradually recovered by more than half. She took a glance at the crying Yi Qingling and hid away the disgust and ridicule in her eyes. All right, I know your character very well. I hope you can remember what you have said. If there is a next time, don't blame me for not caring about our sisterly relationship. Yi Qingling said lightly. Yi Qingling's eyes lit up and she nodded happily. There will never be a next time. Initially, she thought that Yi Qingqian's position in the dark forces was based on her own ability. Thus, the idea of replacing him sprouted in his mind. But now, Yi Qingling completely understood. The reason why the other guardians were so concerned about her was not because her life was more important than theirs. Instead, Yi Qingqian belonged to the sacred technique. Yi Qingqian didn't pay any more attention to Yi Qingling and immediately fixed her beautiful eyes in the direction of the holy technique, her eyes flowing with complacency and ruthlessness. As long as the holy wolf didn't abandon her, Yi Qingluo would definitely die today. You injured guardian who? Wolf Saint Technique's gaze fell onto Yi Qingluo, his gaze icy cold. Yi Qingluo was secretly speculating on the relationship between this holy technique and Yi Qingqian. This holy technique didn't seem to be because of the King of Darkness's mission, but for Yi Qingqian. Could it be that the kidnapping of Yi Fengyu and the attack on the devil class had nothing to do with the King of Darkness? But because of Yi Qingqian's request. That was also a possibility, because what Yi Qingqian wanted to do the most, he would completely destroy her. He had destroyed everything for her, and made her wish she was dead. Losing the devil class competition, and seeing the little brother that he cared about die in front of his own eyes. This was definitely a heavy blow to her. Yi Qingqian had this idea. You're smart but too smart. The wolf's sacred technique walked toward her slowly. Every step he took brought along a majestic and powerful wave of air. It forced Yi Qingluo to take a step back. Protector, who is my partner? Since you hurt my woman, you should pay the price. I'm sure you know the rules. Protector Lang smiled coldly. Looking at Yi Qingluo's flustered look, he couldn't help but laughed. Yi Qingluo probed. Are you here on King of Darkness's orders or to kill me to avenge her? Trying to get information out of me? Wolf Saint Technique sneered as he closed in on Yiqing Luo. He then bent over slightly, looking down at Yiqing Luo, who was unable to escape because of his strong qi. But his next sentence still answered Yiqing Luo's question. Killing you. Not only is it to avenge Guardian Hu, it is also to complete his lord's orders. You're lying. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, trying her best to ignore the extreme cold intent emitting from Wolf Saint Technique, restraining the trembling in her voice. Now she was almost completely sure. Wolf Saint Technique would definitely come. Chapter 1091. If by now, Yiqing Luo still couldn't tell the relationship between Wolf Saint Dharma and Yiqing Qian, then her brain must have been really messed up. She had underestimated Yiqing Qian's charm. But Yiqing Qian should have her own skills towards men. Otherwise, how would Yiqing Qian be able to quickly hook up with Lung Feng after abandoning Lung Fenghua? Even if she and Lung Feng were in a mutually beneficial relationship. But to be able to make Lung Feng cooperate with her, that was Yiqing Qian's ability. She had not expected that after arriving at the Dark Forces, Yiqing Qian could still use her charm to hook up with Wolf Saint Dharma. No wonder those black-robed guardians were so worried that Yiqing Qian would be killed by her. If Yiqing Qian were to die, they would definitely suffer Wolf Saint Dharma's wrath. How can you tell that this Saint Dharma is lying? Wolf Saint Dharma's eyebrows curved in interest, as though he was interested in Yiqing Luo's words. This feeling, to Yiqing Luo, was extremely disgusting. He was teasing a pet. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as her vision was fixed on Yiqing Qian, surveying the surroundings, searching for a chance to leave. While replying to him, she tried to delay the time. If I die, King of Darkness's plan will come to nothing. She was the most important chess piece in King of Darkness's plan. If she died, even if he obtained the profound jade heart in her body probably, it wouldn't be of much use. So, King of Darkness will not let you kill me. This was Yiqing Luo's judgment. Her life, to King of Darkness, still had some value. If Wolf Saint Dharma really killed her, then it would spoil King of Darkness's plan. Or could it be? Wolf Saint Dharma was willing to sacrifice everything for Yiqing Qian? Are you threatening the Saint Dharma? The interest in Wolf Saint Dharma's tone was getting thicker. This lass was interesting. Not only was she intelligent, her reaction was also extremely fast. With just a few words, she was able to pinch the opponent's weakness. This kind of person, if she was allowed to continue living in this world, if she grew up, how terrifying would she be? Wolf Saint Dharma. Yiqing Qian, who had applied the ointment, had been paying attention to their situation. Now hearing Wolf Saint Dharma's interesting tone, his heart trembled. Her pretty face immediately paled, and her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Lang Xingfa. She is very cunning. You must not be fooled. The Wolf Xingfa glanced sideways at her worried face and chuckled. You're worried that I'll fall for her? Yiqing Jian didn't reply. She was indeed worried. Yiqing Luo could even capture the high and mighty overlord, not to mention this Wolf Saint technique which allowed her to seduce him so easily. You and her are different, the Wolf Saint Law said in a comforting tone. Following that, his gaze shifted back to Yiqing Luo. The more intelligent a person is, the person who will threaten this sacred technique usually won't live for long. His gaze made Yiqing Luo shudder. His body seemed to be frozen by frost, unable to move. Wolf Saint Technique suddenly stretched out his hand and pinched Yiqing Luo's lower jaw. He forced her to look into his eyes. The oppressive feeling from the Wolf Saint Technique made Yiqing Luo's body tremble uncontrollably. Even if she met a cultivator who was several profound grades higher than her, Yiqing Luo had never been afraid of anyone. But Wolf Saint Dharma made her develop such a feeling. Yes, she was afraid. Afraid of the Wolf Saint Technique's approach. Chapter 1092. I would like to see, after I kill you, how will his lordship deal with me after his plan fails? The wolf saint technique's palm slowly slid from her jaw to her slender neck. His cold and terrifying eyes were emitting a bloodthirsty murderous intent. He was avenging Yi Qingqian. To avenge her earlier, by strangling Yi Qingqian's neck. Yi Qingluo held her breath. The strong pressure made her have no chance to resist. This wolf saint magic. He was at least a sky-profound cultivator. Only a supreme expert above the sky-profound realm would be able to give her such a strong pressure. A drop of cold sweat dripped down from her forehead. This drop of cold sweat fell into Wolf Saint Magic's eyes. It made the smile in his eyes even more bloodthirsty, as it was filled with scarlet. His 5 fingers gradually tightened. Beside her ears, she could still hear his low sneer. Everything that you have done to protect her I will make her pay for it one by one. Yi Qingluo's pupils contracted. He wasn't joking. He really wanted to kill her. Could it be? He really didn't care about the King of Darkness's plan? Didn't the dark forces all serve the King of Darkness, obeying his every command? This wolf saint magic, and the King of Darkness. What was their relationship? She didn't have time to think about these questions. She absolutely could not lose her life here. The devil class's students were still waiting for her to return. If Dmo Xian knew that she came to the dark forces territory alone, he would definitely be worried. His current identity was Supreme Mo. She couldn't let Dmo Xian's identity, which he had painstakingly built, be destroyed in her hands. Absolutely. She couldn't die. Her half-squinted eyes gradually surfaced a layer of determined luster. She bit her lower lip so hard that it started to bleed. The palm on his neck tightened its grip even more. Yi Qingluo took a deep breath and forced herself to hold on to her will as she opened her 5 fingers. A bolt of lightning-like current ran through her slender fingers, emitting a zzz sound of electricity. Wolf Saint Magic was stunned by this sound. He immediately loosened his grip and looked sideways at the direction of the lightning, making use of this gap. Yi Qingluo lifted her leg and kicked fiercely towards Wolf Saint Magic's abdomen. The force was so strong that even the Saint Technique, who was as tall as a wolf, groaned in pain. His fingers dropped from Yi Qingluo's neck, whereas Yi Qingluo had already stepped on his chest as she flew up. His footwork moved quickly, and the flowing electric current in his hand suddenly formed an electric ball-shaped object. Thunderclap technique. She flipped her palm, and the electric ball directly smashed towards the Wolf Saint Technique. Because of Yi Qingluo's set of combat skills, she had defeated the Wolf Saint Technique, which was continuously retreating. He felt humiliated in his heart, and a strong profound qi broke out of his body, and was about to attack Yi Qingluo. A bolt of lightning struck the top of his head. Zzz. The electric current exploded on the Wolf Holy Law's body. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. The electric current lingered on the Wolf Saint Law's body, constantly flowing with electricity. At the same time, Yi Qingluo swiftly summoned Qi and leaped onto Qi's back. Break through the enchantment and leave the tunnel. Qi let out a tiger roar, and its tiger claws lashed out. The huge tiger body directly flew towards the entrance of the tunnel. Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingling saw this and held Yi Qingqian's hand in panic. Sister, you can't let Yi Qingluo escape. She can't leave. Yi Qingqian didn't panic at all. On the contrary, her lips curled into a cold arc. Coming to the dark forces territory. Still want to leave so easily? Chapter 1093. At the entrance of the tunnel, a ray of white glow dispersed. A transparent barrier separated Qi from the rest. After Qi was knocked away, it swiftly opened up its tiger claws and slashed towards that white glow. However, when the white sharp tiger claws got close to that white glow, it still couldn't avoid the consequence of being sent flying again. Enchantment. The enchantment conjured by the dark forces. Even Qi, the sacred white tiger, was unable to break the enchantment. To take the opportunity to escape from the tunnel, it was probably impossible. Yi Qingluo pursed her lips and forced herself to calm down. She stopped Qi from ramming against the enchantment again. This enchantment, Qi was unable to break it. Forcefully ramming against it would instead cause Chi-Chi to get injured. Damn enchantment. Her understanding towards enchantment wasn't deep, and she could only rely on her own ability to conjure a protective enchantment. As for breaking the enchantment, she had no idea how to do it. How to break the enchantment and leave this place. Could it be that she had to wait for DMO Xian to find out from the devil class students that she had gone to save Yifeng Yu alone, and rush over to save her? No. No way. If DMO Xian came, it would be easy for the main courtyard to discover his identity. Moreover, she wasn't someone who liked to place her hopes on others. She had to resolve the crisis before DMO Xian rushed over. Just as Yiqing Luo was pondering, she suddenly felt an oppressive pressure coming from her back. Yiqing Luo felt a chill down her spine as she felt a sharp pain in her head. She quickly regained her senses and patted Chi-Chi's fur. Chi-Chi leaped up and dashed towards the other side of the tunnel, avoiding the attack from behind. Yiqing Luo turned her head and saw Wolf Saint Magic, who was chasing after her under the Thunder Crash arts. Wolf Saint Magic wasn't affected by the Thunder Crash arts. Only the cloak on his body had been torn to shreds by the Thunder Crash arts. The cloak covering his head had also been torn into pieces. He looked extremely disheveled. Yiqing Luo finally saw Wolf Saint Magic's face clearly. That was a 40-over-year-old middle-aged man. His facial features were dignified, emitting a chilly aura. Especially that pair of sinister venomous eyes. Just one look and one's heart would tremble. Little girl. Wolf Xingfa's voice was filled with thick murderous intent and anger. You are the first person who has dared to put me in such a difficult position. He laughed coldly in a low voice. His tall and slender body trembled with laughter. The imposing manner became increasingly majestic, almost oppressing Yiqing Luo, as if 1,000-catty boulder was pressing down on her shoulders. Her heart was trembling, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. The thunderclap incantation was actually unable to cause any damage to him. This was the reward for clearing the second floor of the Purgatory Tower. At the same time that she was training the students of the Devil class, she did not forget to enter the Spiritual Energy Treasure Ground and enter the Azure Dew Bracelet. Under Old Man Song's guidance, she stabilized her profound level and increased her strength. Of course, he did not forget to challenge the second floor of the Purgatory Tower. The reward for the second level was the Thunderclap incantation. Although she had just started practicing, she could only release an electric ball the size of a fist. But Old Man Song had said it before. Even if it was just a small electric ball, if it were to smash onto a profound practitioner of the Earth Profound Realm, it would definitely cause that profound practitioner to be unable to move for 3 days. But for the Wolf Saint technique, it only tore his cloak and didn't even leave any external injuries on his body. This Wolf Saint technique, just how powerful was he? Wolf Saint technique looked at the astonished young master as he gave a cold smile. Following that, his palm wind moved. That palm wind turned into a raging hurricane, bringing along a strong airwave as it swept across. The entire tunnel started to shake. Chapter 1094. Yiqing Luo was pressured by that burst of energy, and her body became unstable as she tumbled down from Chi-Chi's back. Before she could react, Wolf Saint Magic's figure had already enlarged in front of her. His motive? It was to force her and Chi-Chi to separate. Chi-Chi was a sacred beast, and its speed was unparalleled. But she was an earth-profound 4th-grade cultivator. Even if she possessed the so-called strange footwork, Wolf Saint Magic was confident that he could find her flaw. Wolf Saint Magic indeed had this thought. Among all the martial arts in the world, only speed could not be defeated. Then his speed, was it faster than hers? Howl! Howl! Chi-Chi saw its own master being approached by the enemy. It immediately pounced over, trying to tear Wolf Saint Magic into pieces. However, the moment it pounced in the direction of the Wolf Saint technique, it suddenly stopped. Wolf Saint Magic didn't turn back, but raised his palm. Instantly, a white fluorescent light shot out. Chi-Chi's huge tiger body suddenly froze in midair. Its claws and head seemed to have collided with something. Immediately that transparent barrier was faintly discernible. Barrier. Another barrier. Chi-Chi held a few times as it gathered all its strength and charged towards Wolf Saint Magic's direction. But every time they charged, they would crash into the barrier. Even the sacred beast's sharp claws were unable to break the barrier. No wonder Wolf Saint Magic dared to kill all the black-robed protectors after arriving at the underground tunnel. He didn't need to worry about the sacred beast White Tiger, nor the existence of the divine dragon, because his barrier could completely restrain the sacred beast or the divine dragon. Even if the sacred beast or the divine dragon could break the barrier in the end, there was no harm. Before the barrier was broken, Wolf Saint Magic could totally toy with Yiqing Luo in the palm of his hand. Yiqing Luo only felt her entire body turning cold as her back pressed against the uneven wall. Her charming eyes were fixated on Wolf Saint Magic. The glower flame fan in her hand was ready to strike. Wolf Saint Magic closed in on her, 2 steps away, stopping and looking at her, scared. Yiqing Luo kept silent. Wolf Saint Magic laughed instead of getting angry. His eyes were filled with interest. To teach a proud and unyielding lass to such a fearful degree, this Saint Magic feels carefree. His aggressive gaze made her feel nauseous. It wasn't a look of interest. Instead, it was the kind of twisted expression one would feel when one saw one's prey struggling in one's hands, yet unable to escape from one's grasp. He moved closer to her and pressed his lips against her ear. A cold and frosty aura sprayed on her skin. This made Yiqing Luo feel even more disgusted. Disgusting goosebumps appeared all over his body. The Wolf Saint Law noticed this and deliberately stretched out his finger to stroke the goosebumps on her neck. He chuckled. So sensitive. Do you hate the Saint Law that much? His voice became deeper and deeper. The middle-aged man's aura carried a bone-chilling coldness. Yiqing Luo's scalp went numb as she endured the disgust and turned her head away. The gourd flame fan in his hand had already been infused with profound energy, ready to find a suitable opportunity to strike him in one blow. But he heard a cold voice with a smile in his ear. Who taught you the thunderclap incantation? Thunderclap arts? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Why did he suddenly ask about the thunderclap incantation? Could it be? Is the thundercrash art the same as teleportation? After using it, people will immediately recognize me? Then what was the reward she had obtained after going through so many hardships in the Purgatory Tower? Chapter 1095. Who? Yiqing Luo spat impatiently. Playing with words in front of her? She had played this trick countless of times. Could he consider sparing her life? He only said he would consider, not sure. Even if he was sure, she might not believe it. Wolf Saint Magic wiped the saliva off his face. A murderous intent flashed past his eyes. But he still suppressed the anger in his heart and spat out. Who taught you the thunderclap incantation? Where is that person? Where is the secret to the thunderclap incantation? Leave it to me. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. His 3 consecutive questions clearly expressed his desire for the thunderclap incantation. This might be the chance for her to delay the time and survive. As long as she had something he was interested in, he could not kill her. As though he had seen through her inner thoughts, Wolf Saint Magic's eyes turned hazy. Suddenly, his broad palm landed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. 5 fingers exerted a little force. A burst of profound qi instantly scattered the crimson outfit she was wearing. The belt loosened and half of her indecent clothes were scattered, revealing her fair shoulder. Yiqing Luo panicked, her eyes widened in disbelief. How dare you? He actually wanted to use the most despicable means to force her to reveal the thunderclap incantation. It wouldn't take her life, but it was more unacceptable than killing her. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were cold. Profound qi wrapped around the glower flame fan and flipped it swiftly in her palm. A wind blade went straight for Wolf Xingfa's neck. Wolf Saint Magic snorted lightly. Waste of energy. With a light lift of his finger, he easily blocked the wind blade. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to display her footwork and escaped from Wolf Saint Magic's restraint in a few steps. She speedily ran towards Chi-Chi's direction, condensing profound qi on her feather fan, and drew out countless wind blades. The bewitching red glow was like a sharp blade, cutting on that transparent barrier. At the same time, she silently called Chi-Chi's name, attempting to summon Chi-Chi back into the pet space. But no matter how the red sharp blades struck the barrier, it was still unable to move. The barrier was still firm and indestructible. He couldn't summon Chi-Chi back to the pet space either. A boundary was a space that separated the space within the boundary from the outside world. She wouldn't be able to summon her battle pets if they were in different parallel spaces. What was going on with this barrier? How could it be so strong? If even the people of the dark forces could create such a powerful barrier, they would be able to do so. Then there was no need for them to resist at all. The dark forces could just open up a barrier and attack the upper realm. Roar, roar. Chi-Chi did not give up and tried to break free from the barrier. Yiqing Luo watched as Chi-Chi was bounced back by the enchantment again and again. The huge tiger head and tiger eyes were scarlet red, and there were traces of blood dripping down along the white fur. Her heart tightened as she looked at Chi-Chi comfortingly. He signaled for it not to forcefully crash into the barrier for the time being. At this moment, the wolf saint technique once again stuck close to him like a ghost. Little lass, you haven't been impregnated yet, right? Wolf saint technique sneered coldly as his gaze swept past her fair skin, and his large palm directly touched it. Either tell me the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, or this saint technique will use. This saint technique's method to make you say it obediently. Yiqing Luo only felt a wave of disgust. Chapter 1096. The wolf sacred technique said disapprovingly, "It's very common for a man to have a few women outside. Protect her who is an obedient woman, so she naturally understands this sacred technique's intentions." He raised his voice slightly when he said this. It was obvious that he had purposely told this to Yiqing Qian, who was not too far away. Yiqing Qian suppressed the fluster in her heart as she forced a gentle smile on her face. "Yes, I believe Wolf Saint Dharma has feelings for me. Even if Wolf Saint Dharma were to deal with you on the spot, it's merely to make you reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation." Not sure if he was trying to convince Yiqing Luo or himself. Yiqing Qian's voice had no confidence at all. Her eyelashes fluttered as she stared at the alluring Yiqing Luo, whose shoulders were half exposed. The more uneasy she felt, it was because she had taken the initiative to climb onto the sacred wolf technique's bed that she had gained the sacred wolf technique's favor. It could be said that the wolf saint was obsessed with her body, but if the wolf saint technique was also infatuated with Yiqing Luo's body and couldn't bear to kill her, then what should he do? The uneasiness in her heart made Yiqing Qian unable to witness wolf saint technique doing such a thing to Yiqing Luo in front of her. Just as Yiqing Luo and the wolf saint technique exchanged a few rounds, Yiqing Luo was suppressed by the wolf saint technique to the extent that she had no room to retaliate, and when she was pushed against the wall corner, Yiqing Qian finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She got up with Yiqing Ling's support and said eagerly, "Yiqing Luo, you'd better tell me everything that the wolf saint technique wants to know." At this moment, wolf saint technique's hand had already tugged open the crimson robe that Yiqing Luo was wearing. Hearing Yiqing Qian's words, his hands paused. Yiqing Luo vaguely discovered that in the eyes of wolf saint technique, a trace of joy flashed past. Joy. Yes, it was joy. She was not mistaken. Was the wolf saint Dharma rejoicing that Yiqing Qian had stopped his actions? This knowledge made Yiqing Luo's heart heavy. She heaved a sigh of relief when Yiqing Qian stopped the wolf saint technique's following actions. But at the same time, it also gave her a lot of pressure. Although this was the first time he had seen the wolf saint technique. But Yiqing Luo was very clear that wolf saint Fa's character was absolutely arrogant and disobedient. Even if it was the king of darkness, he wouldn't necessarily listen to orders. However, he was still able to sit firmly on the position of holy technique in the dark forces. It must have something to do with his powerful strength. Yiqing Luo had a deep understanding of his power in the battle. Such an arrogant and despotic saint technique that did not play by the rules. Yi Qingqian's words could easily sway him. The joy in Wolf Saint Magic's eyes was obviously because of Yi Qingqian's obstruction. She cared about him. She didn't want him to touch other women. Therefore he stopped what he was doing. Wolf Saint Dharma's concern towards Yi Qingqian indicated that he would kill himself for her. Even if he had to destroy the King of Darkness's plan, he would have to do so, even if he couldn't get the whereabouts of the thunderclap technique. As long as Yi Qingqian opened her mouth, he would definitely take action. Yi Qing really did not expect. This 40-over-year-old middle-aged man was a man who could be Yi Qingqian's father. It was a bone-deep love for her. However, Yi Qingqian didn't realize that she was afraid of losing Wolf Saint Fa's backing, and had opened her mouth to stop him, which made Wolf Saint Fa mistakenly think that she was deeply in love with him. Yi Qingjian racked her brains to dissuade Yi Qingluo. Don't you still have the overlord? Don't you want to be chaste for his majesty? Dmo Xian. Chapter 1097. She would not let the Holy Wolf technique succeed. Even if he were to die, he would never let the Wolf Saint technique taint her body. She couldn't tell him the thunderclap spell either. Otherwise it would implicate Old Man Song. The matter of the Azure Dew bracelet would also be known to the people of Nirvana realm. He saw Yi Qingluo had an obvious reaction when she heard Dmo Xian's name. Yi Qingjian continued. No one can stop Wolf Saint Magic's decision, not even his lordship. For the sake of our sisterhood, I will give you this piece of advice. Yi Qingluo pursed her pink lips. Seeing that Wolf Saint Fa had already let go of her shoulder, his gaze fell onto Yi Qingqian without blinking. She immediately tightened her clothes. For Yi Qingqian's sake, Wolf Saint Dharma should not make a move on her for the time being. He thought that Yi Qingqian was jealous. If he really loved Yi Qingqian, he would definitely not make a move on her at this moment. The Wolf Saint Law wanted to know the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, so for the time being, he wouldn't take her life. And with Yi Qingqian around, he had no way to use such despicable methods to force her to say it out. Then, he would definitely bring her out of the tunnel and into his territory. As long as there was a chance to leave the barrier, it should be no problem for him to teleport away with Chi-Chi. As expected, seeing Yi Qingjian using her emotions and reasoning to persuade Yi Qingluo to reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, Wolf Saint technique could no longer suppress the ecstasy in his heart. He laughed heartily. He didn't bother about Yi Qingluo's side. To him, pinching Yi Qingluo to death was as easy as pinching an ant. Yi Qingqian's face turned pale when she saw him rushing towards her. She thought that he was blaming her for ruining his plans. However, after the Wolf Saint technique approached her, he reached out and wrapped his arms around her soft body, burying his head in her neck. The middle-aged man in his 40s smiled like a young man who just had his first awakening of love. That hearty laughter was something that Yi Qingqian had never heard in these few days that she had been accompanying him. Wolf Saint Dharma didn't care about Yi Qingling beside him. He didn't bother about Yi Qingluo, who was stuck to the corner of the wall, thinking of ways to escape. He directly clasped her lower jaw and kissed her on the lips. Strong and domineering, fervent and unrestrained. Instantly, the style became fiery hot. Not far away, Yi Qingluo could hear Yi Qingqian panting from being kissed, or moaning from the Wolf Saint technique. Yi Qingling blushed as she listened and moved aside awkwardly. Yi Qingluo was expressionless as her thoughts were all on how to escape from the tunnel. In any case, the Wolf Saint technique would never be interested in performing a live broadcast. So be it kissing and touching. Once he was aroused, the Wolf Sacred technique would naturally want to leave the tunnel in a hurry. At that time, she could seize the opportunity to escape. About the time it took to burn half a stick of incense, the Wolf Saint technique's blood was already surging. He couldn't wait to do Yi Qingqian on the spot. Yi Qingqian's clothes were also in a mess. Her clothes hung loosely on her body. She looked extremely flirtatious. Wolf Saint Dharma pulled Yi Qing Qian into his arms, his eyes filled with longing. Immediately, he carried Yi Qing Qian and was about to leave the tunnel. Yi Qing Qian was still rational. Her little hand grabbed the front of Wolf Saint Technique's clothes and reminded in a sweet voice. Wolf Saint Technique, Yi Qing Luo is still here. She is very cunning. Her voice paused as she sensed the burning hot body that was sticking close to her stiffened. Yi Qing Qian reacted and realized that she was still calling Yi Qing Luo's name under such circumstances. Her motive was too obvious. Chapter 1098. Wolf Saint Magic rubbed Yi Qing Qian's head. She didn't know if he believed her words or not. He turned around and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo forced herself to calm down. Everything was going according to her expectations. As long as the enchantment was released, and she left this tunnel, she would be able to escape. Devil Class's students were still waiting for her. The competition was still waiting for her. She must rush back. She must not let her brother fight alone. The oppressive pressure covered the sky and covered the earth. Wolf Saint Magic's huge palm directly clasped her head. The pain made her head feel like it was about to split open. In a blur, she heard Wolf Saint Magic's cold sneer. Other than Lord, there is no one else who can escape from this Saint Magic. He was a sly old fox. How could he not see through Yi Qing Luo's plan? Trying to escape? He wanted to see how she was going to escape after he knocked her out and brought her away. Yi Qing Luo clenched her teeth as blood oozed out from her lips. But she still couldn't withstand the attack of the pain, causing her consciousness to be in a mess. Her eyes gradually turned blurry. Bam! A loud sound was aimed at Yi Qing Luo's head. Wolf Saint Magic, who wanted to knock her out, suddenly hugged the disheveled lady in his arms and quickly retreated. A burst of majestic profound chi, like a raging wave, covered the sky and attacked Wolf Saint Magic. The entire tunnel's ground started to crack as gravel flew everywhere. Wolf Saint Magic dodged in a panic, carrying another person in his arms. After retreating out of the attack range, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. The hurricane dispersed, revealing a tall and slender figure. A blood-red robe, like a burning flame. Wolf Saint Magic frowned as he looked in shock at the man who walked into the tunnel. His expression suddenly changed. It's actually you. Losing the support of Wolf Saint Magic, Yi Qing Luo's entire body went limp as she fell backwards weakly. Vaguely, she felt a powerful energy force that forced the Wolf Saint technique away. Following that, her body was brought into a warm embrace. A refreshing and serene aura lingered in the air. Her tense nerves, tensed up petite body, finally relaxed slowly. Her head rested in his arms. There was a faint smile at the corner of her eyes, showing that she was at ease. Xian, you're here. Her Xian still rushed over. Just when she thought she was really going to be taken away by the Holy Wolf technique, it appeared in front of her like a god. Her Xian was here. They would definitely be able to leave safely, because Xian was her god. The man who was hugging her froze when he heard her mumble his name. His handsome brows furrowed slightly, showing some impatience. I never thought that the dignified Death God Castle's castle master would actually come to such a small place. Wolf Saint Fa recognized the man in front of him at first glance. To be able to wear such a demonic and enchanting blood-red brocade robe, in such a cold and noble manner. A man who was always expressionless like an iceberg. There was only one Death God Castle Lord, Zhu Wu Xian. Could it be that this lofty and unyielding young lass is your woman? Wolf Saint Technique squinted his eagle eyes as he looked at Zhu Wu Xian, who was hugging Yi Qing Luo's waist tightly. Zhu Wu Xian didn't reply. He only lowered his eyelids silently, looking at the messy clothes in his arms. Her ears were forced to bleed by Wolf Saint Technique's strong profound chi pressure. His dark and gloomy eyes were gradually covered with a layer of frost. You heard her. For in different words, but it was filled with an extremely cold chill. Chapter 1099. Zhu Wu Xian didn't look at the lady in Wolf Saint Dharma's arms. He pursed his thin lips as his indifferent eyes were filled with chilly emotions. Silently, a powerful aura was emitted from his body. Wolf Saint Dharma's expression changed. You want to fight with me? Zhu Wu Xian ignored his shock and astonishment as he changed his posture and held Yi Qing Luo in his arms. He used his own actions to answer Wolf Saint Dharma. His blood-red robe fluttered like a huge red dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. A ray of profound light erupted from his body as it lingered in his palm. Without hesitation, it struck towards Wolf Saint Dharma's face. This aura was extremely pressurizing. Wolf Saint Dharma avoided it, but still didn't retaliate. Only his eagle eyes were deep as he fixed his gaze on Zhu Wu Xian. Are you serious? Whoever hurts her will be an eternal enemy. Spitting out these few words indifferently, Zhu Wu Xian's palm continued to move, and the entire tunnel instantly fell into a never-ending hurricane profound light. That intense pressure made Yi Qing Luo's spirit root unable to stand still. Her entire body was swept up by that hurricane and fiercely smashed against the uneven wall. Wolf Saint Dharma protected the screaming person in his arms as he opened up his profound qi to form a semicircle barrier in front of him. It blocked the raging hurricane and Xian Qi outside. Although Yi Qing Qian's profound grade had been transformed by the profound Yin Qi and had already advanced to the earth profound grade, but this body's innate talent was still stuck at the profound grade. At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian didn't show any mercy as his powerful and majestic force enveloped the entire tunnel. Yi Qing Qian couldn't withstand this kind of pressure at all. Immediately a mouthful of blood was sprayed onto Wolf Saint Dharma, splattering his entire face with blood. Yi Qing Qian's face turned pale as she trembled to help him wipe his face and opened her mouth to apologize. But the current her didn't even have the strength to open her mouth. That powerful airwave constantly squeezed her 5 viscera and 6 bowels. She didn't have any strength to move at all, not to mention raising her hand to help him wipe his face. Wolf Saint Dharma held her little hand, and a gentle burst of profound energy was injected into her body. It protected her heart meridians to prevent it from being shattered by Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wuxin's actions angered the wolf sacred technique. His eagle eyes were deep and his face was filled with anger. Death God Castle's castle master, are you declaring war on me? Yes. His answer was straightforward and decisive without any hesitation. His indifferent eyes were devoid of emotion. He was clearly doing something extremely heartwarming. However, she couldn't sense any emotion from him. Even when he looked at the girl in his arms, the coldness in his eyes did not fade. This made the Wolf Saint technique a little confused as to what Zhu Wuxin was thinking. Wolf Saint technique listened to his unhesitant reply and instead fell into deep thought. Making an enemy out of Zhu Wu Xian in this situation was extremely unwise. Where exactly did this Zhu Wuxin come from? Even his lord had no way of knowing. He only knew that this man who had mysteriously become the castle master of Death God Castle, his strength was not inferior to the master of the imperial palace, Dizun. Compared to the Death God Castle's castle master, he had a powerful and mysterious background. However, no one knew his true identity. Even his lordship was willing to cooperate with Zhu Wuxin. If he really became enemies with Zhu Wu Xian, the collaboration between the Dark Forces and Death God Castle, it was definitely impossible. Chapter 1100. After Yi Qing Luo rested for a moment, her thoughts gradually cleared up. In his daze, he seemed to have heard the Holy Wolf Technique's words. She couldn't help but frown slightly. She tried to open her eyes, which were still a little heavy. She wanted to focus and listen to what they were talking about. The Dark Forces had sent an invitation to Xian? Did the Dark Forces want to cooperate with the Imperial Palace? What ambition did Xian have? Does he want to be like the Dark Forces and unify the Nirvana realm? No, that's impossible. This thought had just flashed past her mind and was immediately denied by Yi Qing Luo. If DMO Xian wanted to unify the Nirvana realm, it would be a piece of cake. Of course, the premise was that the people from the upper realm would not intervene in this matter. However, it was only her personal feeling. Diemo Xian did not have the ambition to unify the Nirvana realm. Otherwise, how could he have abandoned the matters of the imperial palace and wandered around her? A truly ambitious person would not be like this. Suddenly, a cold voice floated over his head. If you hurt her, the cooperation is invalid. This voice was not Diemo Xian's voice, but the familiarity made her body stiffen. Immediately, the splitting headache and heaviness in his eyelids disappeared. This was Zhu Wuxin. The embrace she snuggled into was Zhu Wuxin's embrace. This person was not Diemo Xian. Yiqing Luo suddenly stretched out her hand as she pushed Zhu Wuxian's chest. Let go of me. However, Zhu Wuxin hugged her even tighter, almost as if he wanted to knead her whole body into his. He did not speak, but the action made Yiqing Luo furious. His struggling movements became more and more ferocious. Wolf Xingfa, who was standing not too far away, curled his lips in disdain when he saw this. Castle Lord of Death God Castle, you've done so much for her, but this little girl doesn't appreciate it at all. Zhu Wuxin, who had been expressionless, suddenly raised his head. His calm and emotionless eyes now revealed a biting cold killing intent. It seemed to be warning the Wolf Saint to shut up. Wolf Saint Technique was stunned by her gaze as he stared at the struggling Yiqing Luo for some time. Suddenly he laughed out loud. Indeed, the word love was the greatest calamity in the world. No matter how strong a man was, he had to submit to the word love. Unexpectedly, Zhu Wuxin, who had always been cold and arrogant, was so arrogant. He was actually willing to sacrifice himself for a woman without asking for anything in return. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's hand was grabbing onto Zhu Wuxian's collar, while the other hand was pressing against his chest, as she bellowed in an evil tone. Zhu Wuxian, let me go. Where are your hands touching? Take it away. She didn't notice the Holy Wolf Technique's words at all. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have lost his patience and loosened his grip slightly. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to escape from his embrace, she heard a cold voice ringing beside her ear. If you don't want others to see your body, don't move. Yiqing Luo was stunned. This voice sent a chill down her spine. Then he came to a realization. She lowered her head and looked at her messy clothes. His clothes, which had been shaken off by the Wolf Saint Technique, were already scattered around his waist. Her thin undergarments revealed half of her shoulders, revealing a small pocket embroidered with cherry blossoms. In the process of struggling, it became more and more scattered. Zhu Wuxin hugged her tightly, but it was only to cover her exposed skin. Yiqing Luo gave an ah as her face instantly flushed red. She let go of Zhu Wuxian's collar and speedily pulled up the loose clothes around her waist, pulling it over her body. Just at this moment, the Holy Wolf Technique took the opportunity, when Zhu Wuxian had no time to care about himself, to bring Yiqing Luo away. Zhu Wuxian's gaze turned cold as he raised his palm to create a hurricane, blocking the Holy Wolf Technique's path. Because of this action, Yiqing Luo's undergarments scattered even further. She instinctively leaned into Zhu Wuxian's embrace, using this to block the exposed spring scenery. Chapter 1101. Brother D, the barrier has been unlocked. A clear and melodious voice that sounded like a silver bell rang out from outside the tunnel. Wolf Saint Law, who was about to rush out of the tunnel, was blocked by Zhu Wuxian's hurricane. He turned to the side to avoid the hurricane, but bumped into a soft body. Ah! The melodious voice cried out in pain as she fell to the side. A strong and powerful arm gently supported that lady. It was just a casual support, and after she stood firm, he retracted his hand. However, that lady took the opportunity and directly snuggled into that arm, hugging his waist tightly, not willing to let go. Wolf Saint Law was stunned. When he saw the tunnel entrance and the person who walked in, his expression was filled with shock. The person who walked in was dressed in a purple luxurious robe. Because of the hurricane, his sleeves fluttered in the wind, creating a stream of light. A head of black hair, not tied up or tied, casually scattered over his shoulders. He looked extremely casual and extremely lazy. What was even more breathtaking was that peerless face of his. His long and narrow demonic peach blossom eyes seemed to bear all the splendor of the world, sparkling with an intoxicating luster. However, there was a hint of chilliness in his eyes. Overlord. Wolf St. Law recognized the man, who was known as a legend in Nirvana realm at one glance. He hugged Yi Qingqian and retreated a few steps as he looked at Dmo Xian vigilantly. He had heard about Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo's relationship from Yi Qingqian. One was Zhu Wu Xian, and the other was Dmo Xian. A little girl had actually attracted the attention of two great experts, and both of them had gathered here. But the current situation was a little interesting. So interesting that he temporarily didn't want to bring Yi Qingqian away, and wanted to stay to watch the show. Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was holding onto her robe, paused. She heard a lady's gentle voice. That voice was very familiar. It was the voice which had appeared several times in her dreams, making her heart surge with uneasiness. Subconsciously, she turned her head stiffly and looked towards the direction of the voice. She froze on the spot with this one look. Her body completely tensed up as her pupils dilated. At the entrance of the tunnel, the hurricane dispersed, revealing that peerless figure. Yi Qing Luo's gaze met with that pair of chilly peach blossom eyes. It was like a bottomless pool. Dmo Xian he came. He came with his own face. Not Senior Mo, but Dmo Xian. Brother D. Sensing the man beside her gradually turning cold, the woman tugged at Dmo Xian's sleeve as she called out softly. Yi Qing Luo's vision then followed the voice and fixed onto that lady. Just one glance and Yi Qing Luo felt as though she had been struck by lightning, as she fell into a daze in Zhu Wu Xian's arms. His mind was blank. His taut nerves began to crack one by one. Her mind was filled with the image of that woman. She didn't even notice that she was still in Zhu Wuxin's arms, and had already forgotten about the wolf saint technique that was not far away. Nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, that jade-green figure had soft curves. She was curvy where she should be, draped in a jade-colored soft muslin. She looked as elegant as a fairy. Her glossy black hair was tied into a unique bun, with an exquisite golden hairpin. That face was so beautiful that it could make one's soul swoon. Coupled with that gentle-looking, yet like a little dragon girl, cold and pure temperament, it made this lady look even more alluring. Her beauty was different from Yi Qing Luo's ostentatious and enchanting beauty. Her beauty was extremely tranquil, making one feel pity for her. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.